Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 6 of What If Naruto Was the Black Dragon of Apocalypse in Fairy Tail. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing content, and also go and support the author, link in description. Last night was interesting, to say the least, for the members of Fairy Tail when Urza and Wendy returned with Naruto. Natsu immediately tried to pick a fight, but Gildarts quickly knocked him out. Everyone welcomed Naruto with open arms, which surprised him a little. He hasn't experienced camaraderie like this in a long time, so he was slightly apprehensive with everyone but remained polite when greeting everyone. Naruto finally helped Wendy and Carla talk with one another. Carla apologized for her actions and said they were completely out of line. She said she was being too protective of Wendy and should trust her judgment more and not let her biased opinion get the better of her logical side and think before speaking. Wendy accepted the apology and Carla said she would give Naruto a chance, even if she didn't trust him yet completely. Wendy nodded, as that's the best she'll get out of her for now. Fried asked Naruto questions about his application of rune sealing magic. Naruto was gracious enough to share some of his thoughts on runes seals and offered some of his notes so that he could study for them. Fried promptly fainted from the overexcitement he felt from getting such valuable notes. Mira was the ever-cheerful barmaid and Naruto politely accepted her kind and talkative demeanor. They even shared some stories, especially on certain pairings of people. Needless to say, several people in the guild felt a chill go down their spines. Naruto was slightly surprised when he met Katya for the first time. Several members joked if Katya was another secret daughter of Naruto. Even Wendy teased him at the premise that she had another sister she did not know about, with Katya blushing at all this teasing. Naruto rebutted all these claims and said that as far as he knew he had no other daughter. Though Naruto mentally wondered if Katya was somehow related to him or Anna, since the resemblance between her and Wendy was uncanny. Naruto made a mental note to research the girl's family history and probably get a few papers signed by Anna. He did ask what type of stellar mage she was, but Katya said she was not sure, as she has always felt a presence within her, but she has not been able to call it out. Naruto advised her to be patient and her power would awaken at her most desperate time. Naruto then felt someone looking at him and turned to see Eclair staring at him. Naruto asked if he could help her, and she explained that she has no memory of her past and is on a journey to recover them. She said that when she first saw him she felt her head begin to throb. She asked if they knew each other. Naruto told her that he sadly does not remember ever meeting her, but does offer his assistance once the GMG is over, which she appreciates. What Naruto did not tell her is that she did look familiar. Her attire and scent were very familiar, but he just wasn't sure where he'd seen it. But he knew one thing for sure. Eclair was not a normal mage. There was something abnormal about her. Whether it was friendly or hostile, remained to be seen. All in all, a very productive night for the members of Fairy Tail. The next day was the 4th day of the GMG. The last 3 days have been some of the most exciting days in the history of the GMG, and everyone was expecting even more excitement today. And oh boy, will they be getting it in today's events. The event for the 4th day is a naval battle. Each guild chooses a member to participate in the battle, and the last one in the naval arena is the winner. The chosen members were as follows: Lucy for FTA, Juvia for FTB, Minerva for Sabretooth, Jenny for Blue Pegasus, Sharia for Lamia Scale, Risley for Mermaid Heel, Wave for Quattro Cerberus. Unfortunately, things went south for FTA once Lucy became the second to last person in the arena, with the other person being Minerva of Sabretooth. For the remaining minutes, Minerva continuously beat and tortured Lucy, with her guild screaming in horror and the other members of Sabretooth mocking Fairy Tail, with both teams of Fairy Tail glaring hatefully at them, especially Natsu, Urza, and Wendy. This horrific scene also pissed off 2 blonde mages and 1 red-headed mage. Finally, the beating ended as Arcadio's ordered motto to declare that the event was over. The bell finally rang as Minerva held Lucy by the throat outside the bubble arena. She continued to smirk in smug superiority, with her teammates laughing at the girl. However, this all ended as the sky quickly darkened until it was as black as the night. Minerva's eyes widened as she quickly let go and escaped the bubble as a blue lightning bolt struck the bubble arena and destroyed it. Lucy was falling into the sandy arena until she was caught in the midair by Naruto as he landed onto the arena as he gently laid her down. Lucy. Natsu and several others shouted as they approached the injured stellar mage. Urza and Wendy were quickly at Lucy's side as Naruto quickly healed the most grievous of her injuries with a Kuraja spell. Is she? Natsu started asking. She'll be alright, Naruto said in a dead tone as his eyes were shadowed by the bangs of his hair. Wendy and Urza were glaring hatefully at Minerva, who regained her composure to give that annoying smirk again. What's with the glares? I simply took advantage of the rules. You should be grateful to me for allowing her to keep second place. I guess she did not understand her place. She is just useless trash after all. Mocked Minerva. This caused the glares to intensive on Gray's face and become far more primal on Natsu's, Wendy's, and Urza's faces. Wendy, I demand you to let me out this instant. That bitch has gone too far. No one calls our sister trash. Give me control. All we need is 10 seconds. We can go full dragon and kill this bitch in that time. Let me kill her. Let me out. Ranted Dark off as Wendy felt her dark powers swirl as she was very tempted to allow Dark to raise some hell, and damn the consequences as long she could rip that smug look off Minerva's face. Urza was having a similar internal conflict. That arrogant bitch. How dare choose that to our guildmate. Our sister. Lucy deserves retribution. Let our power out and we can show why you never mess with a dragon's kin. The fierce feminine voice spoke again in Urza's face. Urza could feel her magical power begin to leak as unbeknownst to anyone, her eyes turn into slits. Naruto Shippuden Ost. Yongasha. Minerva and the rest of the approaching Sabretooth members continued to look on in smug satisfaction, but that ended very quickly as everyone felt an incredible magical pressure enveloping the entire GMG arena. Every single civilian and low-ranking mage fainted from the sheer force of the magical pressure. The higher-ranking mages and guild masters were sent to their hands and knees, shivering from the pressure. Although some could withstand the magical pressure and remain perfectly calm, the mages in the arena were the ones most affected as they couldn't even move. What's going on? Urza asked in fright as she had never felt something so powerful. Even Hades's magical pressure wasn't this strong to force her to go down on her knees. It seems our actions will not be required, said her inner voice. Oh, they're in trouble now, Wendy said with a dark smirk as she knew exactly who was causing this pressure. Dark was cackling like a maniac, ha. Looks like Daddy's very angry. With great effort, everyone looked at the source of the pressure and came face to face with Naruto's stone-cold glare. Thunder and lightning danced around the dark skies as they descended from the black heavens and struck Naruto's form. But the lightning did not harm him. Instead, the lightning danced around his body as Naruto's eyes began to glow an eerie white. The sight simply amplified everyone's increasing fear of him. As for Naruto, he was not mad. He was not angry. He was not even pissed. He was enraged. Pure and unadulterated fury fueled his veins. His descendant. Anna's descendant was beaten for this filthy child's amusement. His blood and his draconian half were screaming for retribution for this insult against his family, and retribution will be paid. Naruto marched over with the other members trying to stand to block his path, but with one wave of his left hand all the members of Sabretooth were encased in cocoons of sand, and as he slowly closed his fist, which caused the cocoons to start shrinking and causing immeasurable pain to the four trapped as they shouted in pain. Minerva tried to crawl away, but with another wave of his hand, an arm of sand caught Minerva by her throat and brought her down to the ground. Minerva coughed as she looked up as Naruto kicked her so she was lying on her back. Her eyes widened as she saw Naruto's raised boot right to her chest before he slammed it down. Minerva coughed in pain as Naruto gave her a sadistic smirk. Minerva glared defiantly as she would not give this man the satisfaction of her screaming in pain. She would ruin his fun with every defiant bone in her body. However, that seemed to have the opposite effect as Naruto's smile became more demented. Minerva felt a shiver go down her spine at this. You know, the human body is such a fragile thing. So soft, so squishy, so crushable. Naruto said as he applied more pressure as Minerva's face was turning red due to a lack of oxygen. As Naruto began to speak again, his voice changed, becoming far more monstrous and scaring the shit out of everyone still conscious. Imagine Naruto's voice becoming like Zoom's voice from the second season of the CW's Flash. You know, I could apply more pressure onto your chest. I can cause your ribs to break and the shards could pierce your organs. You could internally bleed to death. Naruto explained as applied more pressure causing Minerva to let out a small gasp as she turned blue. I could break your ribs completely and then crush your organs along with the fractured bones. I could create a beautiful display of your blood and mutilated guts. Naruto said with a twisted smile on his face as Minerva glared back in defiance. Naruto tilted his head in confusion as he could see through her facade. Why the glare? You were so condescending to Fairy Tail just moments ago. You can drop the act as I know you are quite frightened. So why glare after having such a smug look on your face? Come one laugh like you were before. Why are you so tense? Naruto then grabbed her by her cheeks. Tell me. He raised her head as she was face to face with him. Why so serious? Please stop. A soft voice said. Naruto turned to see Lucy looking at him with pleading eyes. Naruto stared at the injured girl as her image was changed to an older blonde that had heavy eyes as she gave Naruto an exhausted, but soft smile. The image changed again to Anna as she gave a tearful smile to Naruto before the image returned to Lucy looking at Naruto with tearful, pleading eyes. No more. Please, she begged before losing consciousness again. Naruto remained quiet until he heard something, "Tu-san." He turned to look at Urza. Father. You've made your point, let us handle this. I promise you they won't get away with this. Tu-san, you can trust us. They will pay for what they did to our family. Wendy said. Naruto growled as the ground shook even more as debris began levitating up into the air. Lighting began to be emitted from Naruto's body as he was covered in a black and blue aura. The remaining mages in the stadium who were still awake were getting very scared. They were already terrified by Naruto's oppressive power and his cruel actions towards Minerva, but they didn't think it could get worse. Oh, how painful it can be to be wrong. Naruto continued to growl until he finally let out all his pent-up rage with a loud, SSSREEEEEEONGK. Naruto's magical energy exploded out of his body as a giant pillar of energy flew into the sky and causing massive shockwaves that ripped away the dark clouds in a flash of light that blinded everyone. The shockwaves created by the pillar of energy were so powerful that the entire capital violently shook from the amount of power Naruto was releasing. When everyone could see again, they could feel that the pressure on them had finally disappeared as Eternano particles descended down over the arena like snow. The saber-tooth mages were finally freed from their confinement as they could properly breathe again. They all looked to see Naruto's cold glare on them and they all flinched in fear. Naruto growled before sighing and walking away. Everyone from FTA gave him space to walk forward. Naruto used one finger to levitate Lucy to his arms and caught her bridal style. Let's go. That was all that needed to be said as everyone from Fairy Tail followed him inside. Up in the stands, everyone was having varying reactions to that spectacle as they helped everyone wake up from that ordeal. Good Kami, that was frightening. Maki, that is one dangerous mage you have at your disposal. Master Bob said as he wiped the sweat off his head. I have never felt such a frightening magical power like that in my life. Not even Deliora made me feel like this. I doubt you could even harm him, Jura. Lion said in a shaken tone. Jura nodded. I doubt any normal mage could face him. In fact, I can tell not even the four gods of Ishgar could defeat him, he said in a serious tone. What? Everyone around him shouted. Surely you're exaggerating, Jura. Sharia shouted. No one can be that powerful, right? You don't understand. If that man is a dragon slayer he should be capable of far more than what we saw. That was him merely flexing a small portion of his power in his rage. Yet that small portion was enough to shake the entire capital. I shudder to think what he would be capable of if he unleashed all his power at once. Are you all right, Anna? Irene asked in a gentle tone. Anna snarled as she looked down at the arena. I am not okay. I just saw my descendant. Layla's daughter get beaten around the arena like a rag doll. And that bitch had the nerve to call her trash. No, our family trash. She's lucky Naruto was the one to teach her fear. I would not have been as merciful. Anna growled as her eyes flashed into slits before going back to normal. Neither would I had I not been focused on stopping you from going down there and revealing yourself to the world and reveal your other, secret. Irene soothed as Anna sighed before looking gratefully at Irene. I thank you for that, Irene. She in an appreciated tone. The two masters of Mermaid Heel then looked at the rest of their guild. Girls, are you all okay? Anna asked in a concerned tone. She knew few people could handle the blunt force of Naruto's magical pressure. Yes, but Kami, you weren't kidding Anna-sama, Irene-sama. Naruto-sama's power is outstanding. It's unlike anything I have ever felt before. Kagura said. I say it's fitting for someone who holds the title of Dragonslayer King, Demaria commented. He's super strong. Miliana cheered. Everyone giggled at the girl's words as Irene addressed the guild. Your words are kind, girls. But you've only seen a fraction of his power. She said. Hopefully, as our fairy tale will finally be able to put Sabretooth in their place, Kagura said in a dark tone as everyone nodded in agreement. Fairy Tale Infirmary. The members of FTA were waiting at Lucis' bedside for to awaken. Wendy and Urza were on opposite sides of the bed, holding Lucis' hands. Gray was pacing back and forth, impatiently. Natsu was on a chair with his hands grasped together as he glared at the ground. Naruto was leaning on the wall with arms crossed as he tapped his fingers repeatedly. Perliuzuka was waiting for her patient to awaken. The silence was broken as everyone heard several footsteps approaching the door. Everyone looked to see everyone from FTB enter the infirmary. Lucy! Shouted Mira. Is Lucy all right? Shouted Juvia in concern. You guys, Gray began as Kana just smiled. Hey, we may be on different teams, but we're still part of the same guild, right? Gray just smiled in appreciation. Her life is not in any sort of danger thanks to Naruto's healing spell. Oh, thank goodness. Everyone said in relief. Wham! Natsu! Nearly everyone shouted as Natsu punched a hole into the wall. Those bastards! Natsu growled, they'll pay for this. We know, Natsu, Laxus said with a scowl. Ah, said a voice as everyone turned to it. Lucy! Happy shouted. Lucy opened her eyes to see the two teams looking at her in relief. Everyone, I'm sorry. I lost again, she said softly as she ducked her head under her covers. What do you mean? You got us, second place. Grace said. You did great, Lucy, Urza said as she tightened her grip on Lucy's hand. Yeah, you don't beat yourself up about it, Wendy said softly as Lucy bit her lip and nodded with her eyes watering. My keys. She began weakly. Here you are. Happy said as he handed them to Lucy. Lucy quickly grabbed them and held them close to her heart. Thank you. Everyone smiled before turning their heads as they heard the door open and in came Makarov with a serious expression. Where have you been, Gramps? Laxus asked as Makarov sighed. I don't know if this is good news or bad, but I just came back from a discussion with the game administration about the future of our team. They won't penalize us for Naruto's actions as they were reactionary to Minerva's despicable actions. But they did ask him to show some restraint next time, he explained as Naruto scoffed. Like that will ever happen. He retorted. And Sabretooth. Natsu growled as Makarov sighed. Sabretooth will not be punished. They were warned this will be the first and last violation they'll tolerate. If this happens again, not only are they gonna be disqualified, they'll be banned from ever participating in the games again. Still feels like they are getting free with just a slap on the wrist, Natsu said. There is one other thing to discuss, Makarov said as everyone turned to him. The administration has asked that we combine both teams. What? Everyone, except Naruto, shouted. Combine teams A and B. Kana asked. Why would they ask? Mira began before Makarov stopped as he began explaining. Due to the disqualification of Raven Tail, they said it would be troublesome to have an odd number of teams. So we must reorganize the team with 5 members. What about our points? Carla asked. They said we would keep the team points with the least amount, Makarov said. Carla and several others dropped their heads. That's so unfair. They all said. Several members shook their heads. Can't be helped if the administration has decided on this, Urza said. On the bright side, that means we can make an even more kick-ass team, Mirajan interjected. Natsu slammed his fists together. I'll definitely get revenge for Lucy. I won't forgive them for laughing at our friends. Natsu growled as Lucy blushed a bit. Thank you Natsu, she said softly. Anyway, I'll let you decide on this, Naruto said as he began to walk out of the room and disappearing in a black blur. Makarov sighed before turning his attention to the two teams. Now then, let's focus on deciding who will be in the new team, he said. About an hour later in the arena. The fairy tale team has finished reorganizing into a single team. Finally, we can begin the battle portion of day 4. Today's battle portion is a tag battle, correct? Yes, it'll be 2 vs 2. This sounds fun. Thank you very much. We have already posted the official matchups. The matches would go as follows. Blue Pegasus vs Quattro Cerberus. Lamia Scale vs Mermaid Heel. Fairy Tail vs Sabretooth. As expected, the most exciting moment will be Sabretooth vs Fairy Tail. Am I right? Personally, I'm surprised it took till the 4th day for them to be matched up with each other. It was a hot moment indeed. Thank you very much. Well folks, let's see the new Fairy Tail. Good luck, everyone, Lucy said. I'm counting on you guys, Elfman said. Now this is what I call the strongest team, Mirajan said with her sister agreeing. I'll be cheering for you all, Wendy cheerfully said as she decided to stay with Lucy. This is an awesome team, Kana commented as she took a sip. I can't see them losing, Juvia said. Thrash them hard, Naruto said. Our guild's hearts are combined. We entrust our feelings to you, Makarov said. Time is now. Show them the strength of your bonds, Mavis said. The ground is shaking. I present you Team Fairy Tail. Out from the gate came Natsu, Gajiel, Urza, Laxus, and Gildarts. The entire crowd was cheering for the whole team. This is the complete opposite of the first day's events. They managed to win back their popularity in just 4 days. Everyone from the guild teams smiled in anticipation. Today was going to be an exciting day for everyone. Natsu and Gajiel glared at the smug Sting and Rogue. Soon fire began emanating from Natsu. I'm all fired up, Natsu growled. In the balcony of the royal family. The celestial wizard is not here. Durden questioned out loud. She seems to be in her guild's infirmary, Arcadios said. Are you trying to mess up like last time? Arcadios shook his head. Oh, last time was a complete blunder. However, this time we will succeed. Let's enjoy the festival, shall we? Arcadios then looked at the minister. I will put our plans into action after the 5th day is complete. Eclipse. Durden said. The world will be reformed, Arcadios said. There's no longer any way to stop this. Lord Zerf has been waiting a long time, Arcadios said before looking back at the arena. The minister sighs before he leaves to get some air and to evaluate what has happened. He continues walking until he reaches a hallway with a wall painting. A painting depicting a black dragon fighting a cloaked human with a scarf. Festival, huh? He says before touching the painting. A gathering of demons, gods, humans rising to battle, and dragons soaring in the skies. The Ryao the Dragon King Festival. Back in the arena. The first of the tag battles was about to begin between Blue Pegasus and Quattro Cerberus. Chosen for Blue Pegasus were Ichia and the bunny suit mage, while Quattro chose Bullet and Wave. Ready to go wild on them, Bullet. Wave said. Bullet chuckled. You should be careful, Wave. People might get the wrong idea. Not that I would mind. Bullet said with a blush on his face. That's not what I meant, Bullet. A red-faced Wave shouted. I wonder how Akame or Kurome think of this. Bullet teased as he saw Wave's face pale like an eggshell. Don't bring them into this. A frantic Wave shouted. Bullet simply waved his hand. Hi. It will be our little secret. He said with Wave just dropping his head in surrender. Whatever. A defeated Wave said. Come, partner. The time has come to release your power to the audience and the world. Ichia said. Huh, so the rabbit mask is coming out, Gajiel said. We finally get to know his identity, Urza said. I wonder who could be under that mask. Natsu asked. The rest of the audience looked in anticipation as the rabbit took off his mask. The secret identity of the rabbit costume was kept even from us. Ren began, what could be under that? Hey, can't you do that somewhere else? He shouted at a kissing couple of Hibiki and Jenny. It's fine. Show everyone that handsome face of yours. Ichiya said as the mage's identity was revealed. Under that mask was a cat version of Ichiya. Everyone's eyes bugged out as their jaws dropped to the ground. The judges, Fairy Tail, and even the members of Blue Pegasus were left speechless. Naruto just blinked. Huh. Everyone shouted. That guy, Gajil began. He's from Extalia. Natsu finished. Nichia. Lily exclaimed in shock as he never expected to see him here. Wah! Where the hell did he come from? Happy shouted in shock. Nichia jumped out of the bunny suit as he landed in a pose along with Ichiya. Double Eichmann attack, Ichiya said. It's a dangerous perfume, indeed. Nichia continued. There's two of them. A pale Urza said as she looked like she was about to faint. Gajil quickly caught her. Pull yourself together. Urza then stood up with a furious look in her eyes. Natsu, Urza growled. Natsu flinched and slowly turned to see an irate Urza. This is your fault, she said. Natsu's eyes widened as she shouted, What? You made that comment on the first day, and look what happened. She exclaimed. But I had no idea that there was another Ichiya under there. It was just a joke. He tried to reason, but Urza was having none of it. And I told you that you should not make jokes like that. The rest of his teammates, feeling pity for the fire mage but decided to leave him to the wrath of the scarlet-haired mage. Bullet and Wave sweat dropped while chuckling nervously. Well, that was a surprise, I guess. Bullet awkwardly said. I really don't know how to feel about this. Let's just transform. Wave said. Bullet nodded. Alright. In Curcio. Grand Chariot. Wave shouted. Now the two mages of Quattro were clad in their respective armors. To be able to meet myself. This must be destiny. Ichiya said with a smile as Nichia was doing the same. On that clear afternoon. Bullet smiled under his helmet before dashing in front of Nichia and delivering a swift haymaker to the yellowed furred exceed. Nichia was knocked out the moment he landed on the ground. No way! Shouted Ichiya. You shouldn't play anymore, Ichiya, Bullet said. We are aiming to win, so don't hold back on us. Wave dashed forward. Wait a minute ga. Ichiya was stopped in mid-sentence as he was hit hard by a harsh kick to the gut by Wave. Ichiya. Blue Pegasus shouted. Had enough, Ichiya-san. Wave asked. There's no shame in surrendering. Bullet politely said. That would tarnish my guild's reputation. As a gentleman, I cannot allow that. Ichiya then stood up and he gave them a determined glare. I will dedicate to you the perfume of victory. Ichiya soon began bulking up as his muscles and magical power increased. So this is his perfume power? Wave asked. Looks like he's ready to go wild, Bullet responded. Smile. Ichiya began. Go Wave. Bullet shouted as both dashed towards Ichiya. Grand Slash. Dragon Slash. Smash. The attacks collided as shockwaves were sent around the arena as Ichiya managed to hold off both slash attacks. Men. He shouted as he pushed the two back. Whoa, Wave said in an odd tone. Bullet then spoke up. Wave, let's use our combo attack, got it? Wave nodded. Hi. Bullet then began glowing for a few seconds before disappearing. EHHHHH. Everyone shouted. Where the hell did he go? Natsu exclaimed. Ichiya began looking around before he was suddenly punched in the cheek and sent flying a few feet. He looked around to see Wave just standing there until he was hit in the gut and then felt a kick to his chin sending him flying across the arena again. What the hell is going on? What's hitting him? Everyone from Blue Pegasus shouted. Is that other guy invisible? Gray and several others shouted. Ichiya got his bearings to see Wave a few feet above him. Grand Slam. Ichiya managed to dodge at the last second but soon shouted in pain when he was slashed in the back. Grand Dasher. Wave shouted as he slammed into Ichiya and sent him into the wall. Ichiya. Blue Pegasus shouted. Are you ready to surrender, Ichiya-san? Wave asked. Ichiya grunted as he got out. I, as a gentleman, cannot back down. As you wish. Ichiya then felt another punch to the gut, but this time, he was ready as he reached out and grabbed hold of something. I've got you, Bullet. Ichiya then charged his magical energy into his fist. Smiling Smash. He shouted as he sent the invisible bullet flying into Wave as the two were sent into the wall. Ichiya dropped to his knees and heaved heavily. Damn, I put a good chunk of my magic in that so that I could end the fight. Impressive Ichiya-san, had we been lesser mages that would have defeated us, Bullet said as got out of the wall. Unfortunately it will take more than that to beat us, Wave said as he also got out of the wall and stretched his body. Ichiya tried to get up slowly. Wave, let's end this now, Bullet said as he quickly dashed in front of Ichiya and sent him flying up. Wave then appeared above and summoned his spear to slam it into Ichiya as he was sent back down as Bullet summoned his spear and slam Ichiya again. The two continued to hit Ichiya back and forth until Ichiya was sent high up as the two appeared above Ichiya with their spears glowing blue and red respectively. Take this. Double slash strike. The two armored mages shouted as they slammed their spears into Ichiya and he was sent back into the arena with a loud boom. Ichiya. Everyone from Blue Pegasus shouted as the dust finally cleared. There in the middle was an unconscious Ichiya. Down. Blue Pegasus is down. The winner is Quattro Cerberus. Those two have good coordination with one another, Urza commented. They'll be tough to beat whether alone or together, Gajil said. Damn, that was awesome, Natsu said. Those two are gonna be fun facing off against, Laxus said. Oh well. At least he fought to the end. Hibiki said. Like a true gentleman. Ren continued. You did your best, Ichiya. Jenny cheered. We'll get them next time, Nichiya, Ichiya said as he carried his partner out of the stadium. Well, that was a great match, wasn't it? I suppose it was despite the disadvantage. It was extremely amazing. Thank you very much. The next match is Lamia Scale vs Mermaid Heel. For this matchup, Kagura and Demaria came out for Mermaid Heel, while Leon and Sharia came out for Lamia Scale. Let the second battle begin. Tenjin no Dogo. Sharia bellowed as she released a torrent of black winds while Leon launched a herd of ice eagles. Gravity pressure x10. The gravity increased causing the bellow and ice attacks to be crushed under the increased pressure. Demaria quickly dashed and summoned a large broadsword as she smirked viciously. Take this. She shouts as Leon quickly dashes forward and summons two blades of ice to block the attack. Sharia prepares to jump in to support Leon but is stopped by a beam slash blocking her way. She turns to see Kagura with her sheathed sword ready. It's best to keep your eyes on me, Kagura warned. Sharia gave her a determined glare as she activated her sky god aura and summoned a scythe. Ready, Kagura? Sharia asked. Kagura then released around 50% of her magical power as her body was enveloped in a blue aura. I was born ready. The two dashed at one another as their weapons collided and caused shockwaves all over the arena. Show me your moves, Sharia Blendy. Sharia jumped back to give her the distance as she slashed downward, only for Kagura to flip backward and land gracefully on her feet. Archenemy. Dash form. Kagura shouted as dashed in a bright blue flash. Sharia retaliated as she also dashed forward and met Kagura at the center as their weapons collided. They pushed against one another as they tried to form some dominance. However, no matter how hard Sharia was pushing in her current form, Kagura seemed to be even stronger, and she didn't even have a transformation. What's worse is that Sharia knew this was not Kagura's full power. She could feel her holding back some power and she still had not unsheathed her weapon. Unfortunately, Sharia's mental distraction was all Kagura needed to push Sharia off and cause her to stagger. Archenemy. Blade form. Kagura shouted as her beam attack managed to land a direct hit on Sharia and she was sent flying back a few feet. Wham! Leon grunted as he sent sliding across the arena. Demaria had a smirk on her lips. Come on, Leon. Show me what you're capable of. She shouted. Leon got back out as he got into his molding position. I'll give you that and more. A giant magic seal appeared on his hands. Ice make. Dragon shower. Leon shouted as several ice dragons came out of the seal and they charged towards Demaria, who just smiled in amusement. She quickly twirled the blade in her hands as she cut through all of them. She then straightened her grip as she blocked another frontal attack from Leon. Leon gritted his teeth and began a volley of attacks against Demaria, hoping that one would land one hit, but Demaria blocked or dodged every single one of his attacks. However, Leon was not someone to ever give up. Leon slammed his foot onto the ground as another magic seal appeared below them. Demaria's eyes widened as several spikes rose and barely missed stabbing her, but she managed to cause several cuts around her body. Ice make. Serpents. Several ice serpents made a beeline for Demaria that gracefully dodged each attack, but then a giant foot appeared above her. Ice make. Titan's foot. Demaria was then slammed into the arena, but she blocked the attack at the last second. Suddenly, Leon appeared on her open side and slammed an ice make. Knuckle that sent her flying into the arena again. Ice make. Liger herd. Several large ligers appeared and launched themselves at her as Leon summoned a bow and fired off several ice arrows. Demaria managed to rip through the ligers and the arrows and dashed in front of Leon and slash him, only for Leon to shatter into pieces of ice and causing Demaria's eyes to widen. Leon appeared behind her with two ice blades in hand. He then launched a barrage of attacks before summoning an ice elephant that slammed into Demaria and dragged her across the arena until Demaria finally sliced it in half. Leon was breathing heavily from the multiple spells and he was sweating profusely. Demaria was not breathing as heavily, but she still had some sweat on her body along with some blood dripping from some of the cuts on her body. I have to say I am impressed. You continuously used spell after spell to keep me preoccupied until you found an opening to exploit and hit me with everything you had. That is a bold plan, but it has left you exhausted. However, I must commend you. Your control over ice make is that of a master. Arigato, Demaria, Leon said in appreciation. But you should give up as you can't keep going like this, she said. Maybe. But I always preferred going down fighting. Leon retorted as Demaria smiled. I like that attitude. For entertaining this much I will bless you with a rare opportunity. Demari dismissed her blades as another large seal appeared. Demaria smiled. I shall use my best weapon against you. Out of a seal, came a uniquely shaped broadsword with a blue blade and golden edge. The sword had a semicircular guard on the left side of the handle that extended to the bottom just above the pommel, with a small extension on the right side of the handle. Everyone knowledgeable in blades felt their eyes widen at the sight of the blade. How did she get that blade? Urza and several others shouted. I can't believe someone actually possesses that blade, Makarov muttered in shock. Urza, what's wrong? Natsu asked. Do you know that blade? Laxus asked in a curious tone. Yes, that's the legendary blade Durandal. One of the great blades was forged by the legendary mage Merlin. That blade can easily make its wielder an S-rank mage and is strong enough to cut even a dragon's scales. Urza explained as the eyes of her team widened in shock. Holy shit. Gajil summed up his team's thoughts. A blade that could cut a dragon, Natsu said in awe and slight fear. You get more interesting, Demaria. I can't wait to see if I can face you. Laxus thought with a challenging smirk. Why, I am not surprised that one of their members has one of those blades. Either she had it and that's the reason she was recruited, or Irene and Anna helped her find and obtain the sword. Either way, that woman is definitely someone to weary of on the final day, thought Naruto. Leon looked in awe at the blade but glared in defiance at Demaria. You've shown your best. Now I will show you mine. Leon shouted as he slammed his hands on the ground. Ice make, Yamata no Orochi. A giant seal appeared below him as a giant 8-headed serpent rose from the seal. Everyone looked in awe at the gigantic serpent. Sugoi Leon, Gray said. Damn, that's amazing, said several people in the stadium. Naruto smirked at the gigantic construct that Leon created. You would be proud of how far your students have come, he said quietly. Demaria looked surprised before gaining a gleam in her eyes as she smiled. I'm glad to have fought you, Leon. Demaria jumped as she went to combat the giant 8-headed serpent. Back with the fight between Kagura and Sharia, Sharia was sent skidding back into the arena as she was covered in several bruises and cuts, and very winded from the battle so far. Kagura was breathing slightly hard along with several bruises and cuts around her. It was quite obvious who had the advantage. Sharia looked to see Leon on top of the serpent. She looked back at her opponent. I need to beat her, so I can help Leon. Sharia stood up as she powered up as her aura became blood red along with her hair and eyes. God force, she muttered. Kagura then powered up again as her blue aura covered her body. She was now using 100% of her base form, but she will not release her sword yet. That was reserved for Urza, however, she will not underestimate Sharia as she has seen what she's capable of. Gravity release X20, she muttered as she was covered in a black aura for a few seconds before disappearing. She then tapped her blade. Gravity curse X2, she mutters as a black and blue aura surrounds her blade and body before disappearing. Ready, Sharia? She asked with Sharia nodding, ready. The two dashed forward once again, but this time Sharia disappeared in a blur. Kagura activated her dash form to dodge a hammer kick from Sharia before the two disappeared into blurs and began to collide several times against one another. The two landed across one another as Sharia summoned her scythe again, but she could immediately tell something was wrong. Somehow Kagura was getting faster and Sharia was getting slower. Sharia pushed her form further and pumped as much magic as possible into her legs as she dashed again. Sharia swiped with her scythe again as Kagura dodged, but she expected this as she used her scythe as a platform to jump right in front of Kagura, and slammed a roundhouse to Kagura's face. Tenjin no Mai. Sharia shouted as she sent Kagura flying back. Unbeknownst to her, a black aura covered her for a brief second before disappearing. Sharia dashed in front of Kagura with a senpuken to land, but Kagura tilted away from the attack. Archenemy. Barrage mode. Kagura shouted as she slammed 20 hits on Sharia. Sharia skidded across the arena. She tried to get up only to quickly fall down again. What's going on? I know I have been hit a lot. But it feels like I weigh a ton. Sharia thought before her eyes widened. What did you do? You never used your gravity pressure spell on me, so why do I feel so heavy? Kagura merely smiled. A special spell that curses my opponent by increasing their gravity by 2x every time physical contact is made. So every time you landed a hit or I hit you, your gravity was doubled every time. But with how many times it was cast on you, you won't be able to move anymore. Kagura said before looking to see Demaria about to finish her fight as Leon was about to launch his last attack. This gave her an idea. She quickly dashes in front of Sharia, grabs her by her shirt, and then sends her flying to Leon. Leon was breathing heavily. His Orochi spell had lost several of its heads and had cracks everywhere. He used the last of his magic to restore the head for one final attack. He was so focused on this task that he did not hear shouting at him until it was too late as she slammed into his back, which broke his concentration. This was the chance Damari was waiting for. She smirked in triumph. Sorry, Leon. This is the end. She raised Durandal above her head as she focused the magical energy into the tip of the blade. Take this. Buster Slash. Demaria shouted as she swung the great blade down as a giant blue and yellow beam raced across the arena and reached the ice serpent. The beam cut right through the ice monster as a giant explosion destroyed it. When the smoke cleared, Sharia and Leon were down. It's over. Lamia scale is down, which means that the winner is Mermaid Heel. Damn, they're strong, Natsu said. Indeed. Besides Sabretooth. I think they're our biggest competition. Gildarts said in an excited tone. This gonna be fun, Laxus muttered with an excited grin etched on his face. Damn, and I thought we had them, Sharia complained as she sat up. No use in complaining, Sharia, they were just better this time, Leon said as sat up with a frown on his face. He looked up to see their opponents giving them a nod of respect before walking away. Kagura is so strong, Sharia said as Leon nodded. She is, and the scary part is that she has yet to release her blade. How much power is she holding back? He wondered out loud. Damn, that was fun. Right, Kagura-chan. Demaria said in a happy tone. That was the most fun she's had since the competition started. She is really hoping the last can be even more exciting. Yeah, I actually enjoyed it. Although I will admit I am looking forward to the next match more than anything. Kagura said. I am pretty sure everyone is, Damari said with a smile. Near a gate to the arena. Natsu walks to the arena gate as he sees Gajil waiting for him. Took you long enough, Gajil grunted. Natsu just scratched the back of his head. Sorry, had to talk to Lucy one last time. Gajil just gave her a smirk. Sure, spend time with your girlfriend. I'm sure Lysina will be pleased to hear that. Natsu blushes before glaring at the Iron Slayer. Shut up. Gajil shrugged. Whatever. You ready? Natsu asked. Yeah, I have been waiting for this. I get to show off the new power I got during my 3 months of training, especially after seeing the shrimp use Dragon Force, Natsu smirked. Hey. Well, let's go and slay some tigers, he said as began walking into the stadium as Gajil was right behind. Stadium Arena. We have seen some exciting battles today, but this next might just take the cake. The guild known as the strongest 7 years ago will fight against the guild that currently holds that title. The two tag teams began approaching the arena. Fairy Tail vs. Sabretooth. Representing Sabretooth was Sting and Rogue while Natsu and Gajil represented Fairy Tail. This battle will fought against 4 Dragon Slayers. WHO will remain standing. I have been waiting for this for a long time, Sting said with a confident smirk. Unknown location. Volcanoes spewed everywhere as lava swept the landscape and the skies were dark from the black smoke of the erupting locations. It's here we see a dragon settled in this location. However, this was no mere dragon. It was around 70 meters long and covered in deep red scales with black accents around the claws. Its smooth yellow underbelly had a deep, diagonal scar on the right side of its chest. It also had a scar on its left shoulder and another on the upper part of its right leg. This was Igneal, the Fire Dragon King and Natsu's adopted father. Weislegia. Skiadrum. The dragon slayers that you have raised. Let us see what they can do against my son and Metallica's boy. Will humans be able to surpass dragons once again? Naruto, I sense that you are watching this battle. You have come back to your senses, my king. Tell me, do you believe these humans can surpass the dragons and reach your height of power? Or is that a pipe dream that can no longer be achieved? Igneal said as he adjusted himself to a more comfortable position. Either way, the time for us to take action draws near. The Dragon King Festival is upon us. Naruto, will they all be ready for what is to come? Natsu, Lucy said. Gajil, Levi said. Give it everything you got, Elfman said. For all our part as well, Gray said. I'm cheering for both of you, Yukino said. If it's them, they'll definitely win, Wendy said. Who'll win the Fairy or the Tiger Cabo? Make your victory overwhelming. Show them the strength of the top guild. Put all your heart into this. I have nothing else to say. Makarov said. I have waited a long time for this, Natsu. Sting thought confidently. Match. Start. Let's go. Sting said as Rogue nodded, right. The two began to run but stopped when Natsu and Gajil dashed right in front of them. The two were left speechless, which left the two wide open as Natsu and Gajil landed 2 hard haymakers to their cheeks. This left the entire audience shocked as they saw Sting and Rogue get sent skidding back a few feet. Sting looked up with a smirk. Hakuryu no Hoko, White Dragon's Roar. A white seal appeared on his mouth as he fired a condensed white beam of energy. Natsu quickly tilted his body to dodge the beam as it passed him. A laser. Natsu said in slight surprise. Sting continued to smile as he tilted his head, which caused the beam to change directions and head towards Gajil. With quick reflexives, Gajil manages to jump out of the way. Rogue encased his right arm in shadows as he dashed towards Gajil. Aryu no Zengeki, Shadow Dragon Slash. He shouted. Gajil raised his arm, Tetsuryuken Iron Dragon Sword. He shouted as he transformed his arm into an iron sword to block Rogue's attack. Gajil then swings his transformed arm to the left and sends Rogue to the sandy arena. Rogue. Sting shouted. He then sees a silhouette as Natsu comes out while holding Rogue by his face. Natsu then slams Rogue into Sting as his arms are soon ignited with flames. Karyu no Yokugeki. The 2 dragon slayers were sent flying into the air. All of Fairy Tail was cheering with the rest of the audience being left stunned. Lecter and Frosch were looking rather nervous at how the match was going. What's going on? Sting and Rogue. The twin dragons of Sabretooth are being pushed back. Natsu and Gajil remained guarded as Sting and Rogue got back on their feet. You as strong as I thought you'd be, Sting said with a smug smirk. Gajil, Rogue muttered as Natsu and Gajil sweat dropped in annoyance confusion. Is that he can say? Both of them thought. Did you idiots actually beat your dragons with that kind of power? Natsu asked as Sting scoffed. Not beat. Killed. We killed them with these very hands. Weren't those 2 your parents? Sting just swiped his arm across. That has nothing to do with you two. From here on out, we'll show you the power that killed a dragon. Sting said as his and Rogue's mana began to increase drastically. Sting's hair began to get spiker as he was covered in a white aura, while Rogue's hair went from shaggy to spiky as he had an aura of shadow being released around his body. Haoito Doribu, White Drive. Shado Doribu, Shadow Drive. Now things will get serious. Be ready you two. Naruto thought. It's over you garbage guild. Gyema thought out loud. Both Natsu's and Gajil's eyes narrowed. There it is. Gajil said as Natsu nodded. It's just like Wendy's. But we can still handle this. Sting makes the first move as he dashes in front of Natsu and throws a right hook. Natsu barely manages to block the attack as he is sent slightly back by the shockwave of the attack. Receive the holy white judgment. Sting shouts as he slams another hook and this time lands on Natsu as he proceeds to deliver a barrage of punches. Salamander. Gajil shouted until his eyes widened as he felt something behind him. Gajil turns and tries to punch Rogue, only for his punch to go through some shadows. Gajil continuously tries to hit Rogue, but all his attacks just miss or go through him. Gajil tried another hook when Rogue suddenly appeared to his side and hit him with a roundhouse kick. Oh my. It looks like Fairy Tail's Gajel is at the mercy of Rogue's shadow drive. Shadows can't be captured. Gajil clicked his tongue in annoyance. Gajil transforms his arm into its iron sword form and slashes at Rogue, only for the sword to go right through Rogue as he turns into wisps of shadow. Rogue then formed right at Gajil's side as he hit him with an elbow to the face. This sent Gajil flying at the same time that Sting sent Natsu in the same direction with a roundhouse kick, which caused the two mages to slam into one another. Don't get in my way. The two shouted at one another. Arguing in the middle of a match. You guys are sure confident. The twin dragon slayers dash into Natsu and Gajil in the arena, causing a giant dust cloud to erupt from the collision. That drive mode has given them a slight edge. Lily commented. Take care of business, Natsu. Happy shouted. Natsu jumped out of the cloud. These guys are good. But not good enough for that form yet. He muttered before Sting appeared right in front of him. Quit mumbling to yourself. Sting shouts as he knees Natsu in the face before jumping over him and slamming a kick to the back of his head. Rogue was slashing at different parts of his body with one slash cutting his headband and causing his forehead to bleed a bit. That drive mode has given them a slight edge at the moment. Were they always this coordinated, Yukino? Makarov asked. Hi. Sting and Rogue were always strong on their own, but they always worked well together. It's why they were considered the best tag team in the guild. Makarov nodded before turning to our favorite blonde king, Naruto. What do you think? That drive mode is nothing compared to what it should be if they actually trained the form. I swear they have the arrogance to match the Pentadrakes, but at least they had the power to back it up. Naruto grumbled. He blinked when he noticed everyone looking at him. What? He finally asked. Naruto, who are the Pentadrakes? Makarov asked. Naruto blinked as he realized he had spoken out loud about that. Oh well. He mentally sighed. It's not like it'll do much harm. The Pentadrakes are a group of dragons that tried to kill Acnologia 400 years ago. However, they were no match for the Black Dragon and were thoroughly beaten and left for dead. Hell, I am pretty sure Acnologia thought he had killed them. However, they managed to live by the skin of their teeth and went into hiding. For the next 4 centuries, they recovered and trained to grow stronger. In time they grew so strong that people began to worship them as gods. Even heard a rumor they gained divine abilities that amplified their powers even further beyond. Eventually, these dragon gods were given the title of Pentadrakes. So they are technically gods in a way? Katya asked. From a certain point of view, yes. Their power could be seen as divine or so strong that people could only see a god wielding that incredible power and worship it as such. So they wouldn't listen to you? Makarov asked as Naruto shook his head. Well, not exactly. They were at best cordial with my father. But they have no respect for me. Though some can be reasonable to some extent. The others are just a pain in my ass. How powerful are they? And could you or Acnologia defeat them? Yukino asked as Naruto scratched his chin in thought. Makarov and the others digested this new bit of information on dragon culture. They wondered where those 5 could be and if they would ever encounter them. They really hoped it was on friendly terms and not as enemies. Makarov then asked, can these pentadrakes take on a slayer as the king and queen did for you? Everyone paled at how ludicrously strong a slayer of one of the dragon gods could be. Naruto looked at Makarov. Pentadrakes have never taken a slayer before, however, one can take a slayer. However, to my current knowledge, none of them have a slayer that I am aware of. If they did, that person would be considered the most powerful slayer on Earthland. Even I don't know what the outcome would be if I were to fight them. Everything he said was true. He did not know the full extent of the Pentadrake's current power or their slayer's power. A battle between them would be inconclusive at the moment. He didn't even know where those dragons were at the current moment, and when asked Giratina she said she was not telling him anytime soon. Let's focus on the match. You all have teammates you should be rooting for. Naruto said. Hi. Everyone said as they turned their attention back to the arena below. This isn't as exciting as I expected, Orga said. The two from Fairy Tail don't seem to be in sync at all, Rufus commented. They're in a must-win pattern now, Lecter said. Frosh thinks so too. Fro responded. Those two seem to be struggling, Perliuzica commented as everyone looked at the battle through a lacrima vision installed into the infirmary. Don't worry so much, Grandini, Wendy commented. Perliuzica sighed in defeat, knowing Wendy would never stop calling her that, and she'd never tell the girl that she liked being called that by her. Wendy, how can you be so sure? Evergreen asked. Because I know those two are stronger than this and they can handle anything those two from Sabretooth can throw at them. Natsu. Gajiel. Lucy quietly muttered to herself. Back in the arena. Sting continues to pummel Natsu across the arena. I always admired you for the longest time. Now is the time for me to surpass you. Sting shouted as he blasted him in the chest with a white dragon's claw that sent Natsu skidding across the arena. Natsu. Gray shouted in shock. Urza narrowed her eyes. There was something off with that last attack. Urza thought to herself. Natsu is about to move until he realizes that he can't move. What the hell? Why can't I move? Natsu wondered out loud. Sting looked rather smug. Take a look at her stomach. Natsu looked down to see a sigil on his stomach. What the hell did you do to me? Natsu demanded. The claw of the white dragon is a holy attack. A body that's marked by its stigmata loses its freedom to move. And with this, I will surpass you. Sting shouted. Back with Gajiel, he was unable to land a hit on Rogue. The dragon that becomes shadow hides its form, Rogue says behind Gajiel before disappearing again after Gajiel tries to hit him again. Will always take down its prey, Rogue says as he appears above Gajiel to deliver a crushing fang to his, only for Gajiel to grab his arm. Will always take down, huh? Gajiel said as he glared at Rogue. Suddenly, Gajiel's magical energy rose as his body was encased in iron scales all over her body. Ho, it has been a while since he used that spell. Makarov mused. Looks like Gajiel has gotten used to his opponent and plans to go serious, Lily said. Natsu will do the same. Go get them, Natsu. Happy shouted as Natsu smiled as Sting was closing in on him. Sting noticed this and frowned in confusion until Natsu landed a fiery right hook to Sting's face sending skidding a few feet away. No way. How can you move? Sting shouted as he looked at the sigil, only to be shocked that it was gone with smoke coming off Natsu's stomach. You burned it off. A stunned Sting said. Natsu cracked his knuckles. Not too shabby. But you still got a long way to go. Natsu lectured as he was enveloped in a fiery aura as his magical power increased. Natsu, like Gajiel, was now going 100% in his base form. Looks like the two are taking this seriously now, Makarov muttered. Although they still seem to be holding back, Mavis said. They're probably trying to back those two into a corner, so they bring out their trump cards, Naruto commented. Don't get too cocky, brat. Don't mock or look down on Fairy Tail. Gajiel shouted as he slammed his elbow into Rogue's face before slamming a hard fist into Rogue, which sent him flying into the arena wall at the same time Sting was sent in the direction with a fiery claw from Natsu. Just like that, go. Go. Romeo cheered. That was great, Gajiel. Levi said. Calm down, Levi. I can't breathe. Lily gasped. Oh my. The course of this battle has changed once again. Sting got out of the wall as he smiled at Natsu. You guys really are awesome. That's why we need to give this everything we have and more. Sting said as he got into a battle stance and began to release a large amount of mana. Damn. Can you feel that pressure coming from him? It's insane. Romeo said as he began to sweat a bit from the power he was feeling. This might be, Happy muttered. Oh my, what do you make of this Ujima-san? Sting is concentrating his magical power into a single point for a devastating attack. Natsu began focusing his magical power into his fist. If Naruto and Laxus can do it, so can I, he thought with an excited grin. Metsuryu no Ogi, Holy Nova. Karyu no Hoken, Fire Dragon's Breakdown Fist. The two attacks of fire and light collided and created a gigantic explosion of white and red that consumed the arena in the aftermath. Sting was the first to appear from the smoke cloud. He smiled, believing he had won his battle. You seem to be happy. Why the smile? A voice asked from within the dust cloud. Sting looked up in complete shock to see Natsu standing with a fist still in front of his own. It would seem Natsu used enough power to match Sting's attack, so the two attacks nullified each, causing no damage to either mage. Sting just continued to stare in horror at the fact Natsu literally took no damage from one of his strongest attacks. Unbelievable. Natsu Dragneel is still standing with no damage. That's not possible. A stunned Lecter said. No way, Orga said in shock. My memory has no records of that attack being withstood like that, Rufus said. I see. So this is the power that has been absent for 7 years. No wonder he so confidently barged into our dorm. I wonder what the outcome would have been had I not intervened. Minerva mused to herself. Gajeel. Rogue shouted, but Gajeel just sent him flying back with one fist. Rogue. Sting shouted in concern. 3 months of training and the release of their second origin has progressed them this far, huh? Perhaps they'll both be ready for the trials in December once again. Makarov said to himself. Soon. Those two arrogant idiots will be forced to release their last ace. Naruto mused. Ujima-san. What is going on? Ujima continues to look at the arena with a critical eye as Natsu and Gajeel beat Sting and Rogue across the arena. Their levels are far too different. It looks like they have the advantage at the moment, Elfman said. They'll win for sure, right? Evergreen asked. Not yet. Those two have one last ace up their sleeves. Wendy said. They'll win. I know for sure. Lucy said confidently. Back in the arena. The day had now turned into dusk as Sting and Rogue were down and breathing heavily as Natsu and Gajeel stood there, waiting for them to stand up. They knew this fight was far from over. WHO could have ever expected the twin dragons of Sabretooth to be beaten so badly. Is this the end? This is. Like hell. This is not the end. Rogue said as he got up. Sting also got off the ground as he stared at his opponents. Yeah. We both knew this was not a wall we could easily climb over. Sting-kun, Lecter said. I know Lecter, Sting said as he remembered a scene of a young blonde boy with maroon-colored exceed on a grassy field. Sting's magical power suddenly skyrocketed. Sting was soon covered in a much stronger aura as a good portion was covered in white scales and his eyes gained a dark blue glow to them. Rogue also had black scales in the shape of black tribal markings covering his body as his eyes glowed ruby red as he was enveloped in a black aura. Natsu, Gajeel, and several others narrowed their eyes. There it is, Natsu said. Looks like the fun and games are over, Gajeel said. Quake in fear at the power of the third generation, Minerva said in a confident tone. Be careful you two, Urza said. The two mages of Sabretooth were now in their Dragon Force forms. Don't disappoint me, brats, Naruto said. They're finally going all out, Perliuzuka said. They'll be fine, Wendy confidently said. How can you be so sure, Wendy? Lucy asked. Because, Lucy, there is a difference between obtaining a form, having proficiency in a form, and mastering a form. I will say I am close to having proficiency in my Dragon Force form. However, due to time constraints and my body is still developing, that's as far I can take it at the moment. Now those two have bodies that are far more developed to be proficient and maybe even master the form, but those idiots let their arrogance get to their heads believing they were invincible. Both have neglected their training and haven't tapped into the true power of that form. And that will cause them the match. Wendy explained. Good luck. Natsu. Gajeel. Lucy whispered as she looked back to the lacrima vision. Rogue, stay back. I'll be enough. Sting said as he began walking forward. Natsu and Gajeel frowned at this. Sting plans to take both of them at their own. He must be rather confident. He's really underestimating us, Gajeel growled in annoyance. The one thing he hates is when someone is looking down on him. Natsu nodded in agreement. Yeah, they've gotten stronger, but we can handle it. Sting dashed as he appeared in front of Natsu, slightly shocking the fire mage. Natsu had no time to block as Sting slammed his fist square into Natsu's face and sending him flying. Gajeel tried a roundhouse kick to Sting's head, but the white dragon managed to duck in time before retaliating with a white magical blast that sent Gajeel flying. Natsu bounced off the arena before landing on the arena wall and using it as a platform to propel himself towards Sting. Gajeel skidded for a few feet before jumping back towards Sting. The two dragons of Fairy Tail then began assaulting Sting with a barrage of punches and kicks. However, in his dragon force form, Sting could handle parrying each of their blows, but he could not retaliate while trying to battle both of them. Sting quickly jumped back to give himself some space, and Natsu dashed forward with a right hook. Sting smirks as that's exactly what he wanted. Sting quickly dodges the hook before kneeing Natsu in the gut before grabbing him by the collar and then tossing him into Gajeel. The two grunted as Sting jumped into the air and shouted, Hakuryu no Hori Bursu, White Dragon's Holy Breath. Sting roared as a beam twice the size of his roar spell was released from his mouth. The blast slammed into the two and caused a massive explosion that shook the entire stadium, and even the arena floor was crumbling from the sheer power of the attack. Holy shit! Shouted most of the audience. Natsu. Several Fairy Tail members shouted. Come on, you two. Naruto thought. He knew those wouldn't be beaten down with just that. Gajeel. Levi shouted in concern for her secret crush. Natsu ni Natsu. Romeo and Happy shouted. The entire arena floor, Makarov began in shock. Was destroyed. Gray finished. That's some impressive firepower, Gildarts said. Is this the power of the third generation? The match continues underground, so please enjoy the fight through Lacrima Vision. Shouted Chapati as panels appeared around the audience that showed Natsu and Gajeel still falling into the ground. I'm not done yet. Natsu glares at Sting as he lands on a large rock and ignites his body in flames. Karyu no Kenkaku. Natsu roared as he fired off the rock like a rocket and landed a solid hit on Sting's abdomen. Sting coughed in pain from the hit, which gave Natsu enough to launch another attack. Karyu no Tekken. Another fist to the gut. Karyu no Hoken. Natsu roared as his attack launched Sting back up a few feet. Before Sting could recover, Gajeel appeared right behind him as he collected a good portion of his magical power into his mouth. Tetsuryu no Hoko. Gajeel roared as he sent Sting flying into the ground in a giant column of smoke, debris, and dust. The two looked down at the dust disappeared as Sting appeared with his shirt completely ripped off. His bare chest had several cuts and minor burns on his chest. Sting smirked and brought his hands together as he collected magical energy into his palms. Behold the brilliant light of the white dragon that purifies all things. Holy Ray! Sting shouted as numerous rays of white magical energy fired from his arms and bombarded both Natsu and Gajeel. Gwa! Gajeel shouted in pain as he could feel his iron scales being ripped off. Ah! Shouted Natsu in pain. Damn, that light element is impressive, Perliuzuka said. Come on you two, Lucy muttered. Natsu rolled onto the ground as he quickly got up only to see Sting waiting right in front of him. Hakuryu no Senkoken, White Dragon's Flash Fist. Shouted Sting as he sent Natsu flying a few feet. Gajeel tried another roar, but Sting jumped into the air as he created several white constructs in the shape of spears. Lance. White Lance Barrage. Gajeel barely dodged a few before he was bombarded again as his scales were ripped off even more. Natsu fired a roar, only for Sting to block it with a giant white spear. This caused a massive cloud to obscure their visions. When the smoke cleared, Sting dashed behind Gajeel and grabbed him by the back of his head and slammed him into the ground as he began running towards Natsu, all the while grinding Gajeel's face into the ground. Natsu had no time to react as Sting raised Gajeel and blasted him into Natsu, and allowing him to end this. Sting poured a large amount of his mana into his mouth. Hakuryu no Hoko. Sting shouted as he released a gigantic white laser that enveloped both Natsu and Gajeel in a gigantic explosion. Natsu, Gajeel! Shouted everyone from Fairy Tail. When the smoke finally cleared, both Natsu and Gajeel were down. Are you watching Lecter? Sting thought as he raised his fist up in victory. Natsu, Lucy said sadly. Is it over? Are they not gonna get up? Macau shouted. Natsu ni get up. Romeo screamed at the top of his lungs. Natsu. Several others shouted. Gajeel, I know you're tougher than this. Lily shouted at the top of his lungs. Times have changed. In 7 years we have become true dragon slayers. The era of the old generation is over. Rogue said as he looked down from a broken pillar. Yeah, but you were strong, Natsu-san. Gajeel-san. Sting said as he powered down and began walking away until. You two sure love to talk crap, don't ya? The two turned to see Natsu and Gajeel getting up. Ow. I'll admit those were good hits, Natsu commented as he began stretching a bit. I actually feel sore in several parts of my body, Gajeel said as he rubbed his arms. How are you still standing? Sting shouted in outrage. Natsu and Gajeel scoffed. Did you really think that would be enough to beat us? Man, you guys are full of it. It's like Wendy said. You may have the power of Dragon Force, but you are no master of it. Natsu said. Like that brat knows anything. Both Sting and Rogue said. Natsu and Gajeel simply scoffed. This coming from the two who were rather freaked out to see one of the older generation using Dragon Force. Natsu retorted. Gajeel gave an evil smirk. Hehehehehehe. Makes me wonder if deep down you two are afraid. Afraid that our shrimp surpassed you too. Gajeel mocked, which pissed off the two dragons of Sabretooth even more. Cut the bullshit. Like you two have anything left to fight us. Sting shouted as he and Rogue powered up again to their Dragon Force forms. Natsu frowned before sighing as Gajeel scowled at the two. I've had my fun, but now it's time to end this. Natsu roared as he was enveloped in a lightning flame aura. Gajeel smirked as his magical power began to spike. I have been waiting to use this for a long time. Especially after seeing the shrimp's Dragon Force. Gajeel began to gain several scales around his body and his body began to take a green shine. Iron Doribu. Gajeel roared as his magical aura exploded outwards. Gajeel has drive as well, Yukino said in shock. It's about time one of them gets the form, Naruto said. Sugoi, Gajeel got drive. Now all that's left is for those two to gain access to Dragon Force. Wendy cheerfully said. You think that will be enough? No power surpasses Dragon Force. Sting roared as he dashed towards Natsu and he tried to slam a flash fist onto Natsu, but Natsu grabbed the fist without any trouble. No power, huh? I killed my father with this power. Nothing can surpass this. Natsu then tightens his grip on Sting's fist causing him to wince. As I said before, the fun and games are over, Natsu said as he continued to increase the pressure on Sting's fist. For all my friends you have insulted and mocked. For what you did to Lucy. Natsu looked up as his eyes were full of rage. For making fun of my nakama, I am going to beat you into the ground, Natsu growled as he popped the joint in Sting's hand. Sting winced before coughing out spit as Natsu landed a harsh punch into his gut before slamming an iron fist that sent Sting flying. Rogue jumped towards Gajeel as he took out his sword and enveloped it in shadow magic. However, Gajeel just looked bored as he transformed his arm into a sword again and with one swing he shattered the shadow-powered sword. Rogue was left speechless before jumping back and glaring at Gajeel. You won't beat me. I will surpass you. Ariu no Hoko. Shouted Rogue. You really are a broken record. If you got nothing new to say then shut the hell up. Gajeel roared as he launched a massive iron dragon roar that ripped right through the shadow roar and blasted Rogue further away. It's not over. Rogue said with Gajeel goading him by waving his arm towards himself. Then come. He shouted back. Tell me, why did Fairy Tail join the games? The fairy tale I knew never cared about its reputation, so why now? Sting asked in confusion. For our nakama. For the 7 years that they suffered and endured. They took it all in and waited for our return. They never gave up. They never disbanded the guild. They kept the guild safe. That's why for our nakama, we'll show everyone. That fairy tale has kept going and will keep moving forward. Natsu passionately ranted. Natsu. Thought most of the members in tears. Stubborn brat. A nostalgic Naruto thought is recalled similar words spoken by a small silver-haired boy with a huge smile. That image soon changed to one of a small blonde boy with whisker marks on his face. Naruto shook his head. No time to get sentimental. Cut that crap. Nakama. All they are is a burden. Sting tried to fire another holy ray, but his words simply pissed off Natsu as he created a giant sphere of lightning and fire. You keep saying that, and yet you both have exceeds. Raienryu no Kone. The giant sphere tore through the rays and made a direct hit on Sting and sending him flying at the same time Gajeel sent Rogue in the same direction. You keep spewing that bullshit, yet the two of you have exceeds. Tell me what the hell is that? Keep Lecter out of this. You would never understand our bound. Hakuryu no Hoko. You don't understand Frosh. Eiryu no Hoko. You can't insult someone for their bonds yet have one as well you hypocrites. Raienryu no Hoko. Natsu roared as the gigantic blast ripped through the two roars and enveloped the two in a gigantic explosion. Oi! The emo was my opponent. Gajeel said as he glared at Natsu. Hey, he attacked me and interrupted my fight. Besides those two were pissing off with their crap. Natsu defended as Gajeel glared before looking away. Fair enough. Those two are really going all the way. An impressed Jura said. Those two can be blockheads, but when it comes to fighting, they're the worst people to face. Especially if you piss them off. Leon said from personal experience from fighting Natsu. Magnificent perfume, Natsu-kun. Gajeel-kun. Ichiya commented. Oi, are you for real? A stun Orga muttered. I have no memory of Dragon Force losing this badly, Rufus said in shock. Power, huh? Minerva mused. When the smoke cleared, Sting and Rogue slowly got up again. Sting! Rogue shouted as a torrent of shadows came out of his arm in the shape of a giant sphere. Yeah! Sting shouted as he created another sphere of white magical energy. The two then began to push the spheres together as the two opposite elements began to mix together. Oi! That's a. Yup. A unison raid, Natsu said before giving Gajeel a look. Want to give it a try? Gajeel shrugged his shoulders. Sure, why not? The two began charging up as this would be their last attack to end the fight. Metsuryu Ogi. Gajeel shouted as he brought his arms together as they transformed into a gigantic black and gray cannon with a dragon head at the tip. Natsu began transferring his power to his arms as his aura took the shape of a vermilion bird. Power alone can never destroy every obstacle a person will face, Mavis said. However, when they have people to push them beyond their limits. Makarov began. They achieve the power to destroy any obstacle they face. Mavis finished. Sting and Rogue condensed the two sphere into one tiny black and white sphere. Unison Raid. Holy Shadow Dragon Fang Flash. Karma Iron Dragon Cannon. Gajeel shouted as the giant beam of black and green magical energy. Metsuryu Ogi. Gurren Bakure Engine Crimson Exploding Lightning Flame Blades. Natsu roared as he fired off a torrent spiral of flames covered in lightning. The torrent flew in conjunction with the beam as the spirals began overlapping the beam. The result was the beam increasing in size as now the beam was a spiral of green, gray, red, and yellow. The two attacks collided and caused massive shockwaves that ripped through the arena below the stadium. However, the stalemate ended quickly as the combined beam ripped through the Flash Fang and enveloped Sting and Rogue in a massive explosion. A massive explosion has enveloped the teams. WHO will be the last team standing. When the smoke cleared, Sting and Rogue were still up, but soon began to fall. I'm sorry, Lecter. He's too strong. Sting muttered as he fell to the ground, unconscious. Frosh. Rogue before falling to the ground as well. That's it, the winner is Fairy Tail. Nice work you two. Wendy cheered. Now that was a manly fight. Elfman cheered as he hugged Evergreen next to him. Yeah. Evergreen before realizing her compromising position and quickly pushed Elfman off with a blush on his face. Get off, Baka. She shouted in an embarrassed tone. Awesome job you guys, Gildarts said, proud of their performance. Good job, Urza said in a pleased tone. They never cease to amaze, Laxus said. Unknown to everyone, a cloaked figure watched the screen of Natsu's victory pose as tears fell down their cheeks. Natsu, they muttered softly. Jelal, Ultir, and Merity felt that shift. That was Zarif's magical signature. It's the mysterious person. Jelal, Ultir said in concern. I'm on it, Jella said quickly as he disappeared to catch the mysterious person. Naruto mused when he sensed a shift in Jalal's mana but decided not to intervene. For now anyway. Hey, that was a fun fight, but they were really easy to read. Sting would always turn his pivot leg to 11 o'clock. Natsu said before Gajeel looked at him. No, it was 10. Gajeel retorted. No, it was 11. Natsu said as he glared at Gajeel, who glared right back. Fine, let's say 10:30. It's not 11 o'clock. Gajeel compromised. Natsu glared defiantly at Gajeel. It's 11 or 23. Gajeel glared in annoyance, that's one more turn. Natsu glared at Gajeel until he noticed his anti-motion sickness seal in view. This gave Natsu an idea as he got a very evil smile. He ripped Gajeel's motion sickness seal off and sent him riding on a mine cart. You bastard! Gajeel shouted, moaned. Gaga gaga gaga. Natsu mockingly laughed. What an exciting finale to today's events. Tomorrow will be the final day of the GMG. The last day is a survival battle where all the members of each guild's team will participate. WHO will be the winner. I'm so excited. Thank you very much. My. This was the expected outcome. Master Bob said in an amused tone. I should have seen this coming. Master Goldmine said. Our targets have changed for the final day. Grandma Uba said. Come. Makarov said enthusiastically. Gray, Leon said. Gildarts Clive, Jura said. Urza, Kagura said. Laxus. Demaria and Orga said. Let's have fun, Natsu-kun, Ichiya said. Looks like we'll be the underdogs this time, Orga said. No matter, we'll still win, Rufus said confidently. The power of Nakama, huh? Minerva said to herself as she walked down the corridor of the stadium. However, someone grabbed her from behind as the two disappeared into the darkness. Fairy Tale Infirmary. That was amazing, Natsu. Never cease to do the amazing. Come here, Urza said as she grabbed Natsu and slammed into her armor in a tight hug. Can't breathe. Natsu gurgled out before he was finally let go to take in some air. Nice fight, brat. Though Gajeel will probably kill you, once he finds you again. Naruto commented as Natsu just shrugged. Natsu then turned to Lucy and gave a bright smile. Lucy. I kept my promise. He said as Lucy lightly blushed as she smiled softly at her partner. Hi, you did. Unknown location under the stadium. Salamander, you bastard, Gajeel growled as he got out of the cart. When I get my hands on him all. That's when he takes a good look at his surroundings as his eyes widen in horror at what he is seeing. What the hell is this? Fairy Tale Infirmary. Carla stops as she has another vision of the castle crumbling to the ground. Wendy saw the look on Carla's face and paused as she had a good idea what this is about. Carla. Did you have another vision? Wendy asked. Yeah. I saw the castle being destroyed, she responded. I guess with the day approaching, maybe the vision is getting stronger. Ignore it for now, unless you see something different, alright. Wendy recommended. Carla nodded. Hi. Later that night in an alleyway in the capital. Jello finally caught up to the mysterious person. Stop. He commanded as the figure surprisingly stopped. I'll show you who I am if you do the same. Jello said as he removed his hood. Now show me your face, he told the figure as they turned to face Jelal as they removed their hood. Jalal's eyes widened in absolute shock at what he was seeing. No way. What the hell is going on? Jelal shouted in shock. Later in the evening, Fairy Tale Guild Lodging Pub. Everyone was throwing a party at their latest victory against Sabretooth. Everyone was in high spirits. Even the reclusive Eclair was smiling and Wendy was actually becoming social again with Carla, chatting with Katya, Eclair, and Momin. Naruto was sitting by Makarov's side along with Gildarts having a pleasant conversation. Mirajan, Kiana, and even Lisana were helping pass out drinks and food to everyone. Gagagagaga. Natsu laughed like a drunk maniac. Gray, who was sitting close, finally got tired of Natsu's laughing as he shouted, "Shut it, loudmouth." Natsu stopped as he turned to Gray's backside. What you say? Turn around and say it again. He challenged. Gray turned to glare at Natsu. Fine. You're too loud, flame brain. You're ruining my mood, he retorted. You wanna do something about it? Natsu challenged. If you keep talking I might just have to, Gray said back. Go for it, Natsu. Happy cheered. Wendy and Katya sweat dropped. As always, those two have more energy than what to do with. If there's one consolation is that you're nothing like them, Wendy. Katya said. Wendy giggled. I was never the rambunctious type to jump at every chance to enter any fight that occurs. I am kinda glad for that, Wendy-san. I like your peaceful demeanor more. Though I do like Natsu and Gray in their own way. Katya said. Hi. Wendy smiled. Don't worry, I get what you mean. Those two will probably be like that when they're old, gray, and wrinkled, Momon said cheekily. That's a scary thought, Lily said. Alright, enough you two. Any more of that and you'll destroy another pub. Lucy commanded as she appeared in front of the two. Killjoy. Natsu and Gray said simultaneously. Well, we just won a major fight and tomorrow is the finale of the GMG. A little steam blowing wouldn't be too bad. Mira said as she stopped right behind Lucy's side. You're too lenient, Murajan, Lucy said before turning to Makarov. Master, do something, she said to Makarov. Natsu. Makarov shouted before jumping on top of the table and pointing at the fire mage. If you're gonna fight, go all the way and show them why you're a dragon slayer. That's not what I meant, Master. Naruto, help. Lucy shouted desperately as he would be the only person Natsu would listen to. However, her hopes were dashed as Naruto shook his head. As long as I don't get dragged in, I don't care. Naruto retorted as Gildarts laughed like an idiot as he and Kana took a giant gulp of their drinks. I don't need to be told to kick some ass. Get ready to cry, Gray. Natsu shouted as he ignited his fist. The only one who's going to cry is you, Natsu. Gray said as he covered his arm in ice. Bottoms up, Tilda, Happy said cheerfully as she was about to munch on his fish. Wham! That was sadly interrupted as he was frozen in a block of ice and his fish was burned to a crisp. Whoops! Natsu and Gray said. How terrible. You two are cruel, how can you do that to my precious fish? Happy comically shouted from inside the block of ice. Sorry, Happy, they said. Unbeknownst to anyone, the fried fish went flying until it landed on the strawberry cake of a certain scarlet-haired mage. Lucy and Juvia flinched as they felt the increased bloodlust and decided to move as far away as possible from this bomb about to go off. Meanwhile, Wendy was doing her best to heal Happy from his frozen experience. Don't worry, Happy, I'll get you back up in no time, she said confidently. Forget about me. What about my fish? Happy cried as Carla scoffed. Forget about the fish and worry about yourself. Carla scolded. Natsu and Gray were continuing their fist fight until someone grabbed them by the top of their heads. Enough! Urza shouted as she slammed the two together. Urza. The two said weakly. Morons. Tomorrow is the finale, and you're wasting your energy in this meaningless struggle. Urza lectured before glaring at the two. More importantly, you ruined my cake. She shouted in comical fury as she summoned a large buster sword. Have mercy. The two shouted, but Urza was having none of it. There will be no mercy for you tonight, she said darkly. Before she could move, the door to the pub opened and everyone turned to see an irate Gajil. Finally, I am out of that hellhole, he growled out. Natsu walked towards him and asked, Geez, what took you so long? Gajil just glared hotly at him. You bastard. It's your fault I took so long in the first place, he shouted. Natsu shrugged. Maybe you were just too slow to react. Besides, consider it payback for day 2. Natsu retorted. Grr, Gajil growled before sighing. Forget it. I have more important things to talk to you about. Natsu just raised an eyebrow at this. What's this about? He asked in a confused tone, but Gajil just shook his head. Not here, just follow me. Gajil said before he turned to Wendy, you two shrimp. Gajil then began walking out of the pub. Oi, what's this about? Natsu asked again, but Gajil ignored his question again. Just follow me, Gajil said again. Natsu and Wendy looked at one another before Natsu went after the Iron Slayer. Wendy looked at her father and he nodded to her. She smiled before following the two. What could that be about? Lucy asked as Urza just shrugged her shoulders. I don't know, but I am going after them, Gray said as he went after them. Wait for me, Gray. Lucy shouted as she went after him with Yukino not far behind. Lucy-san. Naruto sighed, having a good idea of where they were going. He then turned to Urza and Laxus. Urza. Laxus. Go after them. The two looked confused as to why they should go. Why? They can handle themselves. Laxus said with Urza nodding. Yes, but this could be enlightening to the two of you, especially considering your magic. Laxus and Urza paused as they got the message. This must have to do with the dragons and dragon slayers in some capacity. The two nodded before going after the others. Naruto sighed as he looked down at his drink. I wonder if they'll be able to handle what they'll see, Naruto muttered as he gulped down his drink. The promised day is approaching. Sabertooth Guild Lodging. Wham! I warned you, brat, that if you failed me, you would suffer dearly. Gemma shouted. We underestimated Fairy Tail's strength, Sting said as he slammed into the ground again. Is that shameful talk coming from a mage of Sabertooth? Boom. Gah. Rogue grunted in pain. Remove your marks. You are unworthy of them. Gemma shouted again. Enough. Everyone turned to see Dobengal glaring at the master of Sabertooth. Gemma growled at the ninja mage. I believe I told you that you'll suffer if you interrupt again. Gemma shouted. And I told you if you do this again I would not be as merciful, Dobengal warned as he grabbed the hilt of his sword. Enough, Dobengal, Orga said in an annoyed tone. So you would side with the coward? Dobengal retorted, ignoring the growl coming out of the blast mage. Master sets the rules. You know this. Rufus said, but Dobengal scoffed. If I recall, I warned all of you about not underestimating Fairy Tail, especially Wendy Marvell, and yet Minerva was the only one to listen to me. And today you idiots pissed off someone that could have easily killed you if he wanted to. Don't remind of the shameful actions of these weakenings. Gemma shouted as he blasted Rufus and Orga into the wall hard as they both coughed up some blood. Rufus. Orga. Several mages shouted. You fools were beaten by a nobody. I have never been so ashamed of my life to have such weaklings in this guild. Gemma said as he looked at the members of the team in disgust. That man is something far beyond your understanding. We are ants to him that he could easily destroy at any moment he wishes. Especially you. Dobengal warned as the master started foaming in the mouth. You are treading on dangerous ground, brat, Gemma growled, but Dobengal scoffed. Like I give a shit. Now, where is Minerva? That is not your concern, boy. That useless child needed to be re-educated on her failure. Dobengal's eyes narrowed. I will not ask again, what did you do to her? He asked darkly and Gemma snapped. You dare threaten me. You are just like the rest. I will have your heads for this. I will personally rip off your guild marks. Master, wait. Lecter shouted as everyone turned to see him appear on Gemma's left side. Sting-kun and Rogue-kun did their best. He may have lost, but I am proud of Sting. I believe he learned a lot from this defeat and he can become stronger from this. Lecter said, trying to convince the master to see reason and to save his friend from another beating. Lecter. Sting quietly muttered. Happy to know that his partner was not disappointed in his performance. Who are you? Gemma asked. Lecter blinked before laughing nervously. I'm a member of the guild. Look at my Lecter began explaining before he heard Gemma growling at him. I will not allow a lowly creature to bear my mark. He said as he blasted Lecter with his magic. Lecter. Sting shouted in horror. The last thing he saw was Lecter smiling at him. Ting. Kun. Were the last words of Lecter before he was vaporized. Lecter. Sting shouted as tears fell down his eyes before he screamed to the top of his lungs as he gripped with anguish and sorrow at the loss of his friend. Lecter's gone, Frosh said in horror as Rogue quickly grabbed him and held him close to protect him from Gemma's wrath. Why are you crying? He was a worthless animal, Gemma said as he was about to strike Sting again as he raised his left arm and charged it with magical energy. Slice * thump. Erg hhhhhhh. Gemma shouted in pain as he looked to see the stump that was his left arm. He looked down to his severed arm twitch a bit before it finally stopped. You have gone too far now, Dobengal said as he cleaned the blade of the blood on it and he then pointed it at the now one-armed master. Gemma growled like a wild animal as he glared at Dobengal. It looked like any sanity he had left was gone. You bastard. I am going to, Giemma began shouting, but. Arrrrrrghhhhhhhhh. Sting roared as his magical power skyrocketed until he was transformed into his dragon force form. Everyone looked to see an enraged Sting glaring at the master. What's with the glare, brat? I did you a favor, kill off that arg. Giemma could not finish his insult as Sting blasted him right through his chest. Everyone, except Dobengal, looked on in shock as they just saw Sting mortally wound the master. Giemma gurgled as his mouth was filled with blood before falling onto the floor, dead. Sting powered down before falling down as she sobbed at the loss of his partner. Meanwhile with Crime Sorcier. Is this true? Ultir asked in shock. Jelil had come back from confronting the person they sensed in the stadium. But the news he brought was very grim. I can't believe it, Meredy said in horror at what was going to happen in the capital. But it all makes sense when you connect the dots. Naruto's reappearance. His warning on the calamity. The Eclipse Gate. It all fits. Jelil explained. Everything that Naruto told them and the stranger told him. It's all coming together. Now I see why he was so hesitant to tell us anything. It would make all of us go hysteric over a hopeless situation. Ultir said. Things were getting bad quickly. If this was really what Naruto was trying to prevent, then what chance did they have? But he came to help us, right? Meredy asked in a hopeful tone. Or did he come to just save as many as he can? Ultir questioned back. Considering what we will be facing, I won't blame him for doing it, Jelil said. The three remained quiet for a few minutes before Meredy spoke up. What do we do? She asked. Let's talk to him as he should have a plan, and maybe help me with something that's bugging me, Jelil said as his companions nodded before he disappeared in a flash. Meanwhile with the FT Dragonslayers. So what did you find, Gajeel? Wendy asked as they went through an underground tunnel. This feels like a waste of time. Natsu retorted. Shut it, Gajeel replied back. Behind the three were their Exceed partners. Is this only for Dragon Slayers? Happy asked. Probably, Lily replied. Even so, Carla said as she looked at Gray, Lucy, and Yukino. There are onlookers. Yukino and Lucy blushed in embarrassment as Gray shrugged, whatever. We were just curious, Lucy said awkwardly. Carla then looked at Laxus and Urza trailing a bit behind. We're here to make sure none of you do anything reckless, Urza said. Laxus just shrugged. This looked more interesting than staying in the pub, he said. We're here. Everyone's eyes widened as took in the sight before them. Wait, this is, Wendy started. Those look like, Gray continued. Bones. Lucy finished. Not just any bones, Wendy said. Dragon bones, Natsu said in shock. Yeah, a dragon graveyard, Gajeel said. No way. All of these are dragon bones. Happy said. There are so many. There are probably hundreds, maybe thousands. Carla said as she looked at all the remains scattered everywhere. Well, if anyone denied the existence of dragons, they would probably believe now, Lily muttered as he was getting a bad vibe from the place. Why are they all here? Gray said as he looked around the cave. No idea, Gajeel said as he crossed his arms. I don't understand. What could have put them all here? Natsu asked. Lucy moved a bit closer to him as she looked around. Did something happen to them? You think this is where Naruto was going to take you guys? Happy suggested before immediately regretting his words as he covered his mouth. Happy. Carla scolded. Sorry. Happy shouted quickly. Natsu shook his head. No. Igneel is not here, Natsu said as Gajeel nodded. Our dragons disappeared 14 years ago. But the dragons here are much older. Like centuries old. Probably 4 centuries old. Laxus thought, wondering if Naruto had something to do with this and why he decided to stay back. Wendy's eyes widened as she remembered something. I got it. Milky Way. She shouted as everyone looked at her. Wendy. Lucy asked. Wendy turned to everyone. Remember the spells Perliuzuka and Tusan left me? Everyone nodded. One of those spells was Milky Wave. It helps to listen to the voices of the dragons connected to the very river in the skies. I can communicate with the Eternano particles that remain here and I may be able to summon the spirit of a dragon to talk to us. Really? Natsu and Gajeel asked as Wendy nodded. Yeah, leave it to me. I feel like that spell is more appropriate for a soul slayer, Laxus said as Wendy shrugged. Daddy said that sometimes spells can correlate with many attributes. Plus, as he explained, the sky has existed far longer than anyone on this planet and has been there for every event in history, and when mana particles disperse they go to the sky, adding to the sky's record of the world and its history. Now let's do this. It took Wendy a few minutes to draw the magic circle to perform the spell. Be ready, as we can't be sure that if I do find a spirit she will be willing to talk. Wendy went into the center as she got to her knees and began to chant. Wandering souls of the dragons. I am ready to hear your voices. Milky Way. The seal around Wendy began to glow bluish-white as a beam went up to the ceiling, creating a giant swirl of magical energy that eventually turned green. Oh. Everyone said. Pretty. Lucy, Yukino, and Urza said. Soon green whips of mana came out of the vortex and went around the entire graveyard. Soon all the bones began to shake, causing everyone to get nervous. They're all shaking. Lucy exclaimed. Wendy, is this supposed to happen? A concerned Happy asked. Don't worry. I am looking for a dragon soul, but the residual energy is really low as these bones are extremely old and small. Wendy, then she opens her eyes. Found one. It's small, but I should be able to maintain it to get some answers if any. Suddenly all the wisps began to come together in the air as a giant portal seemed to be opening. Whoa. Is that a soul? Wendy. Hush Happy, she's concentrating. Suddenly something began to come out of the portal. Something very large. Hey. That's a large quadruped creature with large wings came out of the portal. It was around 55 meters in length. It was covered in a thick dark green armored hide with sharp fangs and claws. It also had 2 whiskers going down its chin. Dragon. Everyone shouted. R-O-O-O-A-R-R-R-R-R-R. Ah. Everyone screamed in fear. Gaha ha ha ha. The dragon started laughing at everyone's reaction. Huh. Everyone said. You humans are always fun to screw around with. It never gets old. Everyone just stared incredulously at the spiritual dragon. My name is Zirconis, I am the Jade Dragon. I'm surprised you humans would be able to summon my soul. If I am not mistaken, this spell belongs to that sexy dragon Grandini. Now who's the one who summoned me? He looked around until he saw Wendy. Ah, how cute. This little dragon slayer summoned me. Get the hell away from Wendy. Natsu shouted. No way, I am going eat this adorable munchkin. Natsu comically growled. You bastard. Ha 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 ha. Lighten up, you idiot. It was a joke. I'm a ghost, what could I do to her? Possess her. Natsu glared at the dragon. This guy. He said in an annoyed tone. The others were having similar reactions. We just had to get a crazy person, Lucy said. Not a person, a dragon, Gray said. To be more precise, a soul. Gajiel retorted. A dragon soul, Laxus muttered in an annoyed tone. A very annoying dragon soul. Urza finished in the same tone. My name is Zirconis, and I'm. You already told us. Everyone shouted as Zirconis just chuckled in amusement. Humans were so much fun screwing around with. How did you know Grandini? Natsu asked in a curious tone. She was one of the most desired dragons back in my day. But no one had the nerve to go near her when her brother figure was near to bat anyone way. That girl tailed him anywhere he went. Made a lot of us wonder if she had some kind of infatuation for him and wanted to court him. Wendy snorted at the thought of Grandini acting like that towards her dad. It sounded pretty funny and she wished to have seen that. Inside her head, she could hear Dark rolling around laughing uncontrollably, which made her giggle a bit. Unbeknownst to her, Grandini was trying to hide her cherry red face, denying everything Zirconis said and making Dark laugh even harder. What exactly happened here? Urza asked. This place looks like a dragon graveyard, Lily said. We summoned your soul to see if we could get some answers, Carla said politely. I have nothing to you, humans, go away. Zirconis said as he turned his head away. Wait, the 3 of us are cats. Happy said. Ah well, this started over 400 years ago. Zirconis began as everyone's sweat dropped. He seems to change his mind very often, everyone thought. Dragons were the rulers of Earthland. We thrived in the land, sea, and sky. Everything in this world belonged to us, and our power was nearly unmatched. The only ones that could fight us were divine beings and the kaiju. And the number of demons that could fight us was small also. Humans looked up to us as gods and worshipped many of us as such. However, most of my kind saw humans as nothing more than food. However, several foolish dragons lived in coexistence with the humans. They created a kingdom in these ancient lands and at the time were ruled over by the sixth dragon king, Thorin. The two sides never saw eye to eye, so small skirmishes always broke out. But soon it escalated to a full-scale war between the coexistence dragons and the man-eating dragons. I was on the side of the man-eaters. Wait, you ate humans, Lucy said as she looked up at the dragon in fear. I may not like humans, but your kind is a delicacy that I could never forget. Didn't you Mama Dragon tell you to never talk with your food? Natsu teased with a vein popping on Zirconis's head. You getting on my nerves. Zirconis coughed before regaining his composure. The war continued for several years with neither side gaining an advantage. We were in a deadlock until the coexistence dragons broke with their foolish strategy. A strategy conceived between two humans and a dragon. A plan that would spell doom for us all. They taught humans the magic dragons used to slay dragons. This was the birth of what you humans call dragon slayer magic. Everyone looked shocked, especially Natsu and Gajiel. That's how dragon slayer magic was created, Lucy said. So the first dragon slayers were soldiers in a war. Happy asked as Zirconis nodded. That's right. The power of the dragon slayers was immense and turned the tide of the war. However, there was a miscalculation. Many dragon slayers became too powerful and arrogant as they started to kill the dragons on their side too. They would come to regret those actions as they had angered him. Everyone blinked in confusion. Who? They asked. One of the two humans who helped create dragon slayer magic. The father of all dragon slayers, you could say. When he saw what the traitors had done, he snapped. He went on a rampage to find them. And find them he did. He then systematically slaughtered every last one of them in a horrific display of blood and gore. Even a dragon like myself shivers remembering him. Nearly everyone's eyes widened in horror, while Urza's and Laxus's eyes narrowed. Wendy frowned knowing who this was about. I still remember when I saw him again. His eyes were empty sockets into a deep white void, an aura that reeked of death, and a body covered in the blood and flesh of my kind. I made the mistake of angering him when I killed another brat who was under his care. That mistake would lead to my gruesome end along with the dragons that were with me that day. Everyone glared at what they heard and many were thinking he deserved it. So far this matches everything Naruto, father told us. But I wonder what else we'll learn. Laxus and Urza thought respectively. Everyone noticed how Zirconis was staring at Urza and Lucy. Lucy got rather uncomfortable, while Urza narrowed her eyes. What? Urza asked but had a good idea what the staring was about. Now that I look at you too closely, you remind me of a woman I knew during the war. The same could be said about the blonde next to you. Everyone looked between the three with Lucy looking very lost at what Zirconis said. Does that mean one of her ancestors was part of the war and maybe a dragon slayer? But as far as she could recall there has never been a dragon slayer in the Heartfilia family, so what could Zirconis mean? Urza knew that Zirconis was speaking of her mother and Anna, but she kept quiet as it was not yet time for that secret to come out yet. Zirconis shook his head as he turned back to his entire audience. Anyway, as time went on he would continue to slaughter my kind as the war went on. He bathed in our blood and devoured our flesh. He really was a monster in every sense of the word. Everyone had paled hearing the father's description, while Lucy and Yukino looked like they were gonna be sick. Eventually, his skin became scales, his teeth became fangs, his feet became talons, he grew wings and a tail, and soon looked more and more like a dragon. Nearly everyone felt their eyes widen. A human became a dragon. Lucy asked in fear. Why? Natsu asked. Because that is the inevitable fate that befalls all who use Dragonslayer magic. Once it begins it can't be stopped. I know father became a dragon, but why am I getting a bad feeling about where this story is going? All the dragons you see here are the remains of everyone that man has killed. Despite his human origins, that man would kill our king and reign as our new king. The war that was fought would be known as the Dragon King Festival. That man's name was Acnologia. Once a human, now a black dragon that was cloaked in wings of darkness. Everyone who did not know the truth about Naruto felt their eyes nearly pop out of their heads. WWWHHHHHAATTTT. They all shouted. Knowledgia. That thing was human. How could thing ever have been human? It attacked us for no reason and we couldn't do anything to stop him. Lucy shouted in fear. Why wouldn't she? That monster came out of nowhere and attacked her guild. They threw everything they had, but nothing could stop him. How could that be possible? Gajeel exclaimed. Wait, that makes no sense. Naruto is the Dragon King. Natsu shouted as Zirconis's eyes widened. How do you know that name? We've met him. He told us he's the son of Thorin and Saphira. That makes him the Dragon King. So how the hell is Acnologia the king? He. Ha 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 ha. Zirconis began to laugh uncontrollably. What the hell is so damn funny? Natsu roared in annoyance. No lies were spoken to you. Everything you were told was the truth. However, I will warn you now. The fact that Naruto has resurfaced means a great shadow is soon to come. Beware humans of the calamity that will come. I have said my piece, farewell. Zirconis finished as he faded away. Wendy. Carla and Happy asked as they approached the girl. Wendy shook her head. Sorry, his spirit has completely vanished. Perhaps he may find peace in the afterlife. Or burn in hell. Dark replied. Hush, Dark. It's ill-advised to speak ill of the dead. Wendy mentally scolded as she got up, but paused when she smelled a foreign scent in the air. Someone else is here. Well, that was one hell of a history lesson, Gray said. I think that was too much, Lucy said with a tearful look in her eyes. Well, that was a bit of a waste of time since I already knew most of this. Though at least everything was confirmed. Laxus muttered to himself. He looked to ask Urza her opinion but got concerned when he saw how quiet she was. Urza. He asked, but unfortunately Urza was too focused on her own internal thoughts. None of this makes sense. How could Acnologia become the king and have been that killed Thorin when father said he was the one who did it? Urza thought before her mind froze as she had a moment of clarity as everything came together. Father was a dragon slayer who lost the children under his care. He slaughtered all those responsible. He soon began to turn into a dragon. He went to a person to end the war. He hurt Aunt Anna and turned into a dragon. Thorin died saving him and leaving him as the sole person to take the throne. My father is Acnologia. Urza felt as if she was splashed with a bucket of cold water until she felt Laxus's hand shaking her. Urza. Are you okay? Laxus asked as Urza took a few breaths to calm herself as she looked at her fellow S-rank mage. Yeah, just a lot to think about. So, does that mean if we use Dragon Slayer magic too much, we'll turn into dragons? Natsu asked in comical terror. How should I know? Gajeel retorted. No, Natsuyu and Gajeel shouldn't have to worry about it, Wendy said as everyone turned to her. Wendy, what do you mean? Natsu asked. Do you know something? Lucy asked. Before I talk I think our spy should come out, Wendy said as she looked to the far right and someone came out from behind a skeleton that was covered in dust and moss. So you found me out. The nose of a dragon slayer is truly an impressive tool. The person said as everyone became guarded in case the man did anything. Who are you? Laxus asked. The man took a bow before he introduced himself. Forgive me, my name is Arcadios and I am head of the Holy Chivalric Order of the Cherry Blossoms and part of the army of the Fury Kingdom stationed here in Crocus. Now my dear please continue. Wendy looked at the man for a few seconds before turning back to Natsu. Natsu, when we granted Dragon Slayer magic we began to grow something in us called the Dragon Seed. The more we use this magic, the more this seed grows and it will eventually begin to spread throughout our body, and we'll see the physical signs just as Zirconis explained. The claws, fangs, talons, wings, etc. And when the seed blooms, the person becomes a dragon. They are the 4th generation Dragon Slayers. Wendy said as Natsu and several others shouted, what? The 4th generation can turn into dragons. Natsu exclaimed in shock. Wait, Wendy, didn't you say your father is a 4th gen? Lucy shouted as Wendy nodded. Yes, my father can turn into a dragon as he is a 4th gen, just like how I am 4th gen as well. What? Nearly everyone shouted again. Wendy mentally sighed at all the shouting, but pressed on. How? Natsu and Gajeel asked loudly. I will keep this short. Back when I was really young, my dad sealed a powerful mana force inside me. It was meant to protect me in case I was in an extreme situation. However, there was an unexpected result. The power merged with my Dragon Slayer magic and destroyed the seed, but left me with all the benefits. Now I can enter my dragon form while not losing access to my drive and dragon force forms, which is what normally happens to a fourth General Slayer. Wendy explained but decided to leave out the part about the power technically originating from a demon. That would cause too many problems with some members of the guild. Damn, was all anyone could say. Can you turn into a dragon now? Natsu asked, but Wendy shook her head. Not for long. 1. My body is not able to handle the stress of the transformation, so I would just be killing myself. 2nd, if I stay too long not only will it cause harm to myself, but I will also lose myself to my primal mind and become a rampaging monster that attacks everything and everyone in my line of sight. Everyone shivered as they remembered how Wendy reacted to Carla's insults to her father. Then everyone imagined what would have happened had Wendy actually snapped when Lucy was beaten. Everyone felt the color drain from their bodies at the thought of Wendy snapping in the middle of the stadium that was filled with hundreds of civilians and mages. They all shivered in fright. I'm glad you never turned into one, Wendy, Gray said. Wendy chuckled awkwardly. Yeah, isn't that a relief? She was sure they would not like to hear that she was very tempted to go full dragon against Minerva for what she did to Lucy. Yeah, they may not like hearing that. Dark said. How fascinating. Your information and what the dragon told us, match everything he has in our records. Although he did omit one thing involving Acnologia. Arcadios said as everyone looked at him. Tell me, do you know of the demons of Zirf? He asked as Gray's eyes widened. You mean like Deliora? Arcadios nodded. That's correct. Acnologia you could say is similar. According to a theory we devised, Zirf assisted Acnologia in his transformation into a dragon. Zirf helped turn Acnologia. Several people shouted. Yes, and by destroying Zirf, the source of all evil, we destroy Acnologia as well, Arcadios said. Wendy narrowed her eyes at the man. I really don't trust him. Wendy thought as Dark also did not like this man. Be wary, but I don't think he's evil. That explains who helped father. Urza thought as another piece of evidence was added to her conclusion about her father. However, for this goal to be accomplished we require the assistance of 2 stellar mages. In particular, ones that have the Zodiac keys. Zodiac keys. Lucy and Yukino thought. Wendy's eyes narrowed in thought before they widened in realization as she glared at the knight. You son of a bitch. You're the one who sent those goons that captured Katya and Eclair. She accused as Arcadios nodded. That's correct. What? Everyone shouted as several of them got into fighting stances, but Arcadios waved his hand. Calm yourselves. I am not here to capture them. I must apologize as I acted hastily and made a critical mistake. I meant no harm, but I acted too forcefully to gain the Zodiac keys. I am sorry. Arcadios as he bowed his head. Everyone looked suspicious before calming down a bit. What exactly is your goal, Arcadios-san? Wendy asked. Arcadios then turned around and he began walking. Please, follow me and I will show you. An hour later at Fairy Lodgings. It turns out that Arcadios took the group to see the Eclipse Gate. He explained they would use this gate to open a portal to go 400 years back into the past and kill Zirf before he became immortal. Nearly everyone in Fairy Tale had an epiphany as they now realized that the gate in Carla's vision was the Eclipse Gate. They also connected that the malicious magical energy was coming from the gate. Wendy asked if it was safe to mess with things such as time travel as they had no idea of the consequences of these actions. But some like Yukino wondered if the consequences could outweigh the potential good that could be done with this gate. Arcadios explained that with the 12 keys, the gate would be opened when the moons are eclipsed to one another. July 7th is when the gate will be opened. That made some alarm bells go off in everyone's heads as that was the same day Naruto said he would reveal where the dragons went. This just raised even more questions. Were these 2 events connected in some way? However, before they could voice their opinions, they were all surrounded by the kingdom's army, and leading them was the colonel minister, Durden. He explained that he was against this plan from the start and now will have Arcadios, Lucy, and Yukino arrested. Natsu wanted to intervene, but he had his magical energy drained from him by the Eclipse Gate. The rest were kicked out of the castle and told if they win they may have an audience with the king and get their friend back then. Now they're back in the lodging and explain everything to Makarov, Gildarts, and Naruto. So the only way to get Lucy and Yukino back is if we win the GMG, Gildarts said as Gray did not look convinced at the deal. The problem is that we have no clue if they will even keep their word. They could easily backstab us. Who the hell cares about all that? I say we go in and bust her out now. Natsu shouted from his tied-up position. Calm down, Natsu. None of us like this either. Makarov lectured. Master, father. What do we do? Urza asked, though she had difficulty saying father, something that Naruto noticed and made a mental note to ask her about. We cannot act rashly as this is the king we are dealing with. Though he shouldn't treat his subjects so roughly. The two are being held as an incentive for us to win. Makarov said as he scratched his chin in thought. But why let us leave if we have such valuable information? Gray asked. Because who would actually believe anything we tell them? Everyone will think we're crazy. And the last thing I think anyone wants to do is start a civil war against the kingdom. Laxus answered. Natsu finally got sick of sitting and ripped himself out of his bindings. Enough blabbering and let's just go save them. He shouted at the top of his lungs. Settle down. Makarov said as he slammed his enlarged fist on Natsu. They have members of our family in their clutches. Considering who our opponents are, we can't attack up front without consequences. Makarov said before looking at the blonde king. Naruto, what do you propose? Naruto hummed before answering. We need to appear in the games as they'll immediately know if don't. So we create two teams. One will participate in the games, while the other discreetly infiltrates the castle and rescues Lucy and Yukino. If the GMG team wins, we'll have our audience with the king and get the girls back, but if they go back on their word our rescue team will get them out. Makarov sighed. That seems to be our best option at the moment. I'm going on that rescue team. Natsu shouted with a fiery look in his eyes. Naruto rolled his eyes. I already knew you would say that. Wendy, I want you to go to help Lucy and Yukino, but also to keep him from getting into trouble. What's that supposed to mean? Natsu shouted but was ignored by everyone else. Anyway, all of you get some sleep. We have a long day tomorrow and you need your rest. Everyone nodded as they all began turning in for the night. Wendy gave Urza and Naruto a tight hug before going to bed. Naruto was about to go to bed on the couch when he felt a hand on his shoulder and turned to see Urza looking at him. Father? She asked in an uncertain tone. Naruto raised an eyebrow as she bit her lip. Can I speak with you? Naruto nodded as the two sat on the couch and quickly put a silencing barrier to keep the conversation private. What is it? He finally asked. Urza fidgeted before finally speaking. I want you to be honest with me. When we spoke to Zirconis he spoke about a particular mage that helped bring about the creation of Dragon Slayer magic. How he was betrayed by his comrades and killed them all. How he slowly descended into madness and became a dragon. A dragon that rose to become the Dragon King. Urza looked up to see her father's serious gaze. Father. Are you really Acnologia? She finally asked. Naruto looked at his daughter for a solid minute before answering, yes. The two remained quiet as Urza looked down, coming to terms with what was confirmed to her. Why then? She finally asked. Naruto looked at her. What? He asked as Urza raised her head as she stared at her father with sad, conflicted eyes. Why did you attack my guild? Naruto sighed before answering. I will say what I told Wendy. I originally went to go after Zirf as I wanted revenge against his actions against me. I don't have to explain that, correct? Urza shook her head. Well, when I saw he was gone, but you guys were on the island, I decided to have fun with you guys. Urza glared at her father for that remark. Fun. Father, do you realize how terrified you made all of us? She screamed. I am well aware, but let me ask you something. Did anyone die? Naruto asked. Urza narrowed her eyes. No. But that's not an excuse. Naruto shook his head as that wasn't the point he was making. Didn't you ever find it weird that I went out of my way to land on the island and attack you all when all I had to do was fire my roar at the island when it came into my line of sight? Urza looked thoughtful as what her father said did make sense. He did not need to land on the island. Not to mention no one died or lost a limb. Guildarts fought me and lost an arm and leg, but no one lost anything. I did all that because I wanted to see how strong you guys were. And? Urza questioned as her father scratched the back of his head. Well, I was disappointed in your power as I expected more, but I was happy at how close your bonds to one another were. It showed that you held the ideals of my sister, Mavis, close to your hearts. So I tested you with my roar, and you managed to deflect it thanks to the fairy sphere you created. Once I saw you guys were alive, I left and you know the rest. Urza looked down, digesting everything she heard. She looked up when she saw her father get up to dispel the barrier. I will take my leave, he said. Urza's eyes widened in shock. Wait, why? I can tell my presence is upsetting you. So I'll leave and if you don't want to speak with me again, I'll understand, Naruto said as he looked at his daughter sadly before he began walking out. Urza continued to look in horror before she finally snapped back into reality and ran after Naruto. No! She shouted as she enveloped her father in a firm hug from behind. Naruto was left stunned as Urza buried her head on his back as she held on tight. Please, don't leave, she said softly. Naruto looked back in confusion. But you, Naruto began but was interrupted by a loud, but firm, be quiet and let me speak. Naruto stayed quiet to allow Urza to speak. I do not hate you. Am I angry? Yes, I am very, but I don't hate you. I have heard and seen enough of your past to know just how complicated and jaded you are. You have been so much throughout your life. So much pain, so much suffering, so many betrayals. It could make anyone snap. All the pain you felt, eventually became all you knew and the only thing you knew how to give others. But Master Mavis and Wendy have shown that you still are capable of feeling love and yesterday shows that you hold great sorrow for your mistakes. Urza then looked at her father with gentle brown eyes and a small smile. That's why if I can forgive Gajiel, Laxus, Jello, and Ultir for their actions, then I should have no problem forgiving you, father, Urza said brightly as Naruto just looked at his daughter in wonder before turning around and bringing her into a tight hug. Thank you for my Benihime, he said softly as she returned the hug. The two stayed in silence before they separated as Urza was asked something that had been on her mind for a while. Father, one last question. When I saw Lucy getting hurt, I felt a great anger and then heard a voice speak to me. I also heard it after seeing your memories. Naruto sighed before answering, that would be your inner dragon. Urza blinked, my what? It's a physical manifestation of your dragon slayer magic. And its personality depends on you, your upbringing, and any other factors that affected you and your personality. And considering your very protective and loyal nature towards your nakama, it's safe to assume your draconian half is that but taken up to the extreme. Naruto explained. Urza nodded as that explained a great. She wondered if every dragon slayer had to deal with an inner dragon. She'll ask that another time, but right now she wanted to know one thing. How do I talk to her? She asked as she wanted to meet her inner dragon to establish an understanding and a connection. Naruto summoned a piece of paper with the deep sleep kanji written on it. Here. This seal will put you to sleep and send you straight into your inner world. But what if I don't wake up in time for the games? Urza asked, worried she may miss the games. Naruto shook his head. Relax. I made it so the seal wakes you up in time for the games. You have my world. If anything goes wrong with it, Wendy will be there to help. Urza nodded in appreciation, thank you. Now go get some sleep. You have a long day tomorrow. Urza nodded as she gave Naruto one last hug and a kiss on the cheek before leaving to go to her bedroom. Naruto sighed as he wanted to get some rest after this long day. Now for some sleep. Naruto, Jelil said as he appeared next to the blonde king. Fuck. Naruto silently swore as he looked at the blue-haired mage. What is it? He asked. Jelil looked at Naruto with a grim look in his eyes. I need to speak with you about the mystery person. They told me what's going to happen here on July 7th. Naruto sighed in exasperation. This is so damn troublesome, Datbeo. Naruto muttered before his eyes widened. Damn it. He shouted. This was gonna be a long night for Naruto. Unknown location. Urza opened her eyes to see herself surrounded by numerous crystal constructs. It all looked like a giant forest of crystals of different shapes, sizes, and colors. So this is my inner world. I guess the crystals represent the Tower of Heaven since that's what I knew for a good portion of my life before Fairy Tail. Hello, Urza. It's a pleasure to meet you at long last. A strong feminine voice said. Urza turned to the source of the voice and saw a figure sitting on one of the branches of the crystal trees. She looked like a teenager of average height, with fair skin, brown eyes, and dark burgundy hair. Her hair is mostly chin-length with the addition of elbow-length bangs that frame both sides of her face. Her attire typically consists of a high-collared, low-cut red corset with short, light green puffy sleeves worn underneath a sleeveless, magenta trench coat that flares behind her, being shorter and pleated in the front, and black, elbow-length, fingerless gloves with gold bracelets above them. Below that, she wears red high-heeled pumps and black thigh-high stockings connected to a skirt by suspenders. Urza admitted that the girl looked very pretty and could pass as her sister or close relative. Think Akiza from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Hello, my inner dragon. I'm glad I get to finally meet you. Urza said politely as the inner dragon smiled before she spoke again, yes indeed. Now then let's talk. Next day, GMG Stadium 3 p.m. Welcome at long last everyone. Today is the final day of the GMG. Whether you're happy, sad, or both, today a winner will be decided. Today's reporter will be me, Chapati. Ex-council member Yujima. Hello. And finally our special guest is Mato-kun, the official mascot of the GMG. Cabo. Are you ready for this? Yes, let's get the show on the road and introduce the teams. First is Blue Pegasus. Out came Ichiya, Jenny, and the Trimans. Lamia Scale. Lamia Scale was Leon, Sharia, Jura, Toby, and Yuka. Quattro Cerberus. Bacchus, Bullet, Wave, Aegil, and Lubbock. Next comes the current holder of the title of number 1 guild. Will they maintain their record? Here they are. Sabretooth. Out came Rufus, Orga, Rogue, Sting, and Minerva leading them. Oh. They look different. Perhaps they have renewed their fighting spirit. They look so cool. Hey, one of the cats that usually cheers for them is missing. One of the civilians pointed out with his friend also noticing the oddity. Well, that's weird. Where did the little guy go? Lecter. Sting thought. Sting-kun, do your best. Sting turned to the voice to see an image of Lecter cheering him on before it disappeared. Sting smiled softly before looking forward. Leave it to me, Lecter. I will do my best for you. Next comes Mermaid Heel. Out came Kagura, Sela, Demaria, Brandish, and Risley. Good luck girls, Irene said. Show them your power. Anna cheered. Finally the current number 1 of the GMG. The guild that was number 1 7 years ago. Here comes Fairy Tail. Out of the gate came Gildarts, Laxus, Gajiel, Urza, and finally Gray. They've changed members. Durden stayed quiet. Huh. Gray. Natsu is not here, Rogue said as Sting shakes his head. Not like that would make things easier for us. Why was Natsu not included in the team? Perhaps something happened. He must have not recovered his magic, Durden muttered to himself. Go Fairy Tail. Romeo and Asuka cheered. Go Gray. Juvia cheered. Urza! Shouted several members of the guild. Gajiel beat them up. Levi, Jet, and Droy shouted. Laxus, show them your superiority and bravery. Freed cheered. You and Naruto thought this through, Perliuzuka said. You sure about this, Maki? This was the best arrangement, so we can only hope the best, Makarov said. In the city, several figures were rushing to the capital's castle. These figures were Natsu, Wendy, Mirajan, Happy, Carla, and Lily. I leave it to you, brats, Makarov said in a confident tone. Meanwhile, Naruto was standing on the statue of GMG viewing all of this going down. Good luck everyone. The day of reckoning is upon us. Only 9 hours remain before the promised time. The Lucy and Yukino rescue team were running to the castle as they heard the shouting from the GMG stadium. Looks like the last fight is about to begin, Mira said as he looked in the direction of the stadium. Good. That'll distract everyone and gives us a chance to get into the castle. We need to put on some disguises so we're not standing out, Lily said. Mira giggled in amusement. Don't worry, I have an idea, she said as she explained her plan to everyone. Wendy cast one last look towards the stadium. Good luck, Oni-chan, everyone, she thought before following her team to commence the rescue plan. Now let the GMG begin. This time the entire town of Corcus. The members of each guide have already been scattered across the town. Now each member will run around the city and when you meet an enemy, you fight. Chapati explained. If your enemy loses or is unable to fight, you will be the victor and receive a point. Also, each team must decide on a leader that only the fellow members of the team will know. If the leader is beaten, you will receive 5 points. Mato continued. There are a total of 45 points available to get. So anyone has a chance to win. Every team will have their own strategy. They can either work together or split off on their own. Chapati finished. Urza looked at the members of her team. Listen, everyone. I don't have to repeat this, but we have to win for Lucy and Yukino. Everyone nodded. If Natsu and the others manage to get them back before the game's end. Gray began. Then that would be the best case scenario, Gildarts finished. But we can't take any chances and we have another reason to win, Gajil said. Laxus smirked. To make up for our guild that's lost for the last 7 years. WHO will be the victor. Let the GMG begin. Mato shouted. Let's go. Urza shouted. Yeah. The other members shouted. The last battle is about to begin. Chapati said. As expected, some of the teams have split up. Yujima said. Everyone do your best. Mato cheered enthusiastically. Sabretooth has split off into one-man teams. While others have gone off into pairs. Yujima commented. In the city, Rufus paused as he stopped on the roof of an apartment. Huh, he says in confusion. What's up, Rufus? Orga asked as Rufus frowned. They are not moving, he replied. Meanwhile, everyone in the stadium looked up at the projection of the same location in the city with confusion in their eyes. What the? All of the members of Fairy Tail are just standing. Chapati said. What are you brats doing? Makarov shouted in comical annoyance. What's going on? Lisana asked. Kana shook her head. I have no clue. First come, first served, guys. Max shouted with Elfman nodded. Get in there and fight. Fairy Tail's actions are peculiar, but we have other battles that are about to begin. Chapati said as he was confused by the team's actions, but there were other teams to focus on. Back in the city arena, the first match involved Lubbock against Yuka and Toby. The battle was tough, especially with Yuka's anti-magic abilities, but Lubbock managed to pull off a win. In another part of the arena, the Triman of Blue Pegasus was taken down by Brandish. The points continue to change, but Fairy Tail still has not moved. Jura manages to take out Lubbock, who had the misfortune of running into him. Leon took down Agil thanks to the advantage of using ice magic against the sand. Which would have been a problem in the arena, but in the city, the two were on a much more even playing field. The next people to meet were Jenny and Ichia against Bacchus. The two Pegasus mages knew this was gonna be a tough fight, but they refused to go down without trying. However, this match was interrupted as Sting appeared from above the sky and delivered a powerful surprise attack on the unsuspecting Bacchus and instantly knocked him out. Several people shouted. Sabretooth is on the move. Bacchus's defeat means 5 points to Sabretooth. Sting looked up to the other two opponents who he planned to quickly take out, only for Kagura to appear and beat the two Pegasus mages with a surprise attack. Kagura has made a move. With that last move, Blue Pegasus is out. Kagura gives Mermaid Heel a huge boost in points. Kagura quickly turns, ready to fight Sting, only to be surprised to see he disappeared. So he ran away. He must be saving himself when Fairy Tail makes its move. Smart. Whether we win or lose, is irrelevant at this point. I simply want to test my strength against Urza. But I will fight for my guild before that time and if we happen to win, then that's a bonus. Kagura thought as she walked off to find another opponent. It's best to ignore heavy hitters like Jura, Gildarts, Kagura, and Demaria. They could easily knock out our members. Though I wonder why have they not made a move. Minerva mused to herself. Wave manages to knock out Miliana with little difficulty. However, this left him wide open for Brandish and Sela to sneak attack him. Wave was managing to put off a good fight, but he was being overwhelmed. That was until Bullet came to the rescue. Now, this became a 2 versus 2 fight. Dragon slash. Wave and Bullet yelled in unison as they launched their signature attacks against the two mermaid mages. Brandish just looked at the attacks with a frown on her face. She raised her open palm up as it glowed green with magical energy. Suddenly the two attacks disappeared. What? Shouted the two armored mages. How did you do that? An incredulous Wave asked. Brandish merely gave smirk along with Sela. That's for us to know and for you to figure it out. She teased. Wave and Bullet narrowed their eyes before looking at one another and nodded. Bullet became invisible as Wave summoned his blade and dashed forward to the two female mages. Wave performed dual slashes that the two girls easily dodged. Bullet had sneaked behind the girls and prepared to strike them from behind, so imagine his surprise that Sela turned around and caught the blade with both hands. What the hell? How did you catch me? My armor can fool even the best sensors. Sela smiled. It's because I am a demon. I have enhanced senses and sensory capabilities. Not to mention my magic. Nothing can hide anything from someone blessed with the magic of the moon. Sela explained as she looked right into Bullet's eyes as her eyes glowed a bright blue. Moon eyes, Sela muttered as Bullet then became visible to everyone again. Bullet. Wave screamed, but Brandish appeared right in front. Sorry, but I'm supposed to stop you from ruining Sela's fight. The green-haired mage said as Wave glared at her. Then I'll force you to move. Double grand slash. Wave shouted. However, like the last time, Brandish raised her hand and the attacks disappeared. Damn it. Is it some kind of eradication magic? Can she erase anything she wants? But why has she not done it to my armor? Wave thought to himself. However, this momentary distraction gave Brandish enough time to dash in front of Wave with her fist coated in white magical energy. Wave quickly crossed his arms, thinking he could take the hit. Suddenly he noticed that the energy within the fist began to expand exponentially. Brandish slammed her fist into Wave's crossed weapons and the two blades were easily broken as Brandish's fist slammed straight into Wave's gut. Guh. Wave coughed as blood came out of his mouthpiece as he sent flying into the wall of a nearby building. Brandish titled her head as Wave remained attached to the crater on the building. Ah, don't tell me you're done. I am usually not one for fighting, but it's more boring if the fight ends too quickly. Wave grunted as he got out of the crater as he looked up at Brandish. Her attack grew in size in an instant before her fist impacted me. And my attacks disappeared the minute they reached her. I may have an idea for her magic. Meanwhile, Bullet was still standing as Sela began charging her magic into the shape of a blade. Farewell, Bullet, she softly said as she brought her blade down, but Bullet managed to repel her attack. Sela's eyes widened as Bullet jumped back. How did you do that? Bullet smiled. Your magic eyes allows you to see things normal people can't see. Not to mention your demonic powers. You're able to compel people to do your bidding like a succubus. Sela merely smiled. I am impressed that you're able to resist my compelling. Bullet nodded. Sadly your magic won't work on me. Sela smiled as she summoned another blade to her hand. Oh well. This makes things more interesting. Moon blades. The two dashed forward to continue their fight. Back with Wave and Brandish, the two were circling one another, waiting for the right time to strike. Wave decided to make the first move. He threw a fast right hook. Brandish quickly jumped back as Wave followed her as he threw several jabs at her as several walls, lamps, and floor become the receiving end of Wave's fists. She's not used her magic. Is she waiting for me to launch a magic attack or an opening for me? Wave thought before tightening his fist. Only one way to find out. Wave then summoned his spear again and charged it with magical energy. Grand thrust. Wave shouted as he hurled the spear towards Brandish. Brandish waved her hand as the spear disappeared again. However, Wave used this opportunity to dash in front of her and landed his swift haymaker that sent Brandish skidding across the arena. I figured it out. Wave said as Brandish looked at him with a bashful smile. What do you mean? Your magic expands or shrinks mass. You used your magic to shrink my attacks and weapons so fast that it looked like you eradicated them. And when you hit me, you expanded the magic to increase the damage out your attack dishes out. My only confusion is why you never used it on me. My only guesses are you can't do it to living things or if the person is strong enough, they can resist your magic's effects. Wave explained. Brandish just titled her head in amusement. Maybe tilde, she teased before getting a serious look on her face. She then coated her fists in magical energy. Ready for round 2. Back with Bullet and Sela were neck and neck with one another. Each one managing to land a strike with the other retaliating soon after. It was a complete statement. After one last clash, the two landed a few feet from one another. You really are an amazing opponent, Sela-san. Bullet complimented with Sela smiling. Likewise. However, that doesn't mean you'll win. That goes for your partner. Bullet then summoned 2 spears as he began twirling them as he charged them with magical energy. The 2 spinning spears became 2 red discs of energy. Take this. Double spear discs. Bullet shouted as he launched the 2 discs. Sela was prepared to block them but was surprised when they completely ignored her and went past her. She turned to see them heading for Brandish as she was distracted trying to hit Wave. Brandish! She shouted. The green-haired mage turned to see the discs heading for her. She was about to shrink them when they suddenly began to glow before exploding in a giant flash explosion. Arg! Both Sela and Brandish shouted as they were completely blind. Using this opportunity, Wave summoned his spear and sword as he coated his body in a blue magical aura. Double Grand Dasher! Wave shouted as he slammed into Brandish before sending into a head-on collision with the stone floor. Bullet summoned his own spear and blade and went straight to Sela as the blades of his weapons to glow red. Dragon Blade Barrage! Bullet shouted as he delivered several slashes into Sela before ending the combo with one large cross slash that sent Sela into the same area Brandish was sent into. Wave jumped into the air and landed next to Bullet. Bullet turned in concern to see Wave breathing heavily. It seems Brandish's attacks left more damage than expected. Can you continue? Bullet asked as Wave nodded. From the smoke cloud, Sela and Brandish appeared with several bruises but still standing. The 2 girls sent smirks to the armored teens. Not bad, but not enough. Brandish teased. Sela then raised her hand above her head. Let's see you stop this. Suddenly a dark blue sphere formed above her hand and continued to grow as more magical energy was poured into it. Sela gave a smirk to the shocked looks on Wave's and Bullet's faces if their eyes are anything to go by. Take this. Moon Destroyer! Sela shouted as she launched the sphere towards the 2. Brandish decided to get in as she raised her arm and shouted, Expansion! The spell caused the sphere to grow even more. Now it was the size of a building. Ready, Wave! Bullet shouted. Wave nodded. Yeah. Wave then summoned several spears and launched them into the air. The 2 then summoned their spears and charged them with as much energy as possible. As the ball of doom was upon them, Bullet shouted. Now Wave! The 2 then slammed their spears into the sphere. Shockwave ripped through the area they were fighting in as the 2 armored mages were being pushed back. The 2 roared as their spears glowed brightly as the sphere actually stopped. Double Reflection Slash! The 2 shouted in unison as they sent the attack right back to the girls. The girls were about to dodge, but Wave would not let them off easily. Grand Spear Shower! Suddenly the spears that Wave threw into the air came crashing down towards the girls. Sela and Brandish were surprised though when the blades did not attack them but instead landed around them. Brandish was about to shrink the blades and then the attack, but suddenly the blades glowed as Wave shouted, Grand Seal! A giant magic seal appeared as it paralyzed the 2 girls. The 2 girls could do nothing as their sphere of doom came upon. They could only say one thing. Shit. Boom. Seilah Brandish. Several members of Mermaid Heel shouted from both inside and outside the town and arena. Irene and Anna narrowed their eyes as they knew their girls could handle much worse. They knew those 2 would make them proud just like everyone else has. Back in the stadium, Bullet and Wave dropped to their knees as smoke, dust, and debris flew everywhere. While they were able to block and reflect the attack back, it took a large majority of their magical energy to actually succeed. That was the fatal flaw of the reflection slash. The stronger the attack that is reflected, the worse the backlash will be on the user's body. Damn it, my body is really getting numb. Wave moaned as he slowly got back up. Bullet grunted. Same here. We've both lost a large chunk of our magical reserves. Hopefully, those 2 are down, because if this fight continues, then it'll be our last fight in this tournament. If it is, then we go wild until we can't anymore. Wave proclaimed. Bullet nodded. Agreed. Suddenly the two heard some giggling from the smoke. Well said, you two. The two armored mages looked up to see heavily damaged Sela and Brandish coming out of the smoke. How are still standing after that? Bullet questioned. Brandish and Sela grunted. Let's just say this not the first time Sela and I have been forced to tank giant ass attacks like that. Brandish said with an annoyed tone. Suddenly both girls were enveloped in a magical aura as their injuries slowly began disappearing. As the girls sighed before getting ready to fight again. However, both Wave and Bullet can tell that the two girls breathing heavily. They may have caused the injuries to disappear, but that does not mean the damage they received had disappeared. One last round, girls? Bullet asked as he and Wave were enveloped in magical auras as they were prepared to use the last of their reserves in this fight. The two girls smirked as Sela was enveloped in a blue aura as her body began to transform. Sela's skin turned a much darker as her horns grew and her hair became much wilder. Her legs became sharp blades at the end with wings protruding from the sides. Her appearance after inflicting the macro curse on herself. Brandish was soon enveloped in a green and white aura. Ready, boys? Brandish teased as the four mages dashed at one another. Everything is going so fast. Mermaid Heel and Quattro Cerberus are fighting viciously. I'm having trouble keeping up. But Fairy Tail has not moved yet. What are you brats doing? We have to save Lucy and Yukino. Makarov shouted. That is exactly why we have to stay calm, Mavis said. Makarov and several others looked at her to elaborate. For the last 4 days, I have studied our enemy's magical abilities, battle skills, and mental and physical patterns. Several members blinked in confusion at Mavis's words. What do you mean, Showtime? Levy asked. I have devised the perfect strategy for this battle, Mavis said before she stood up and pointing her finger in a dramatic way. The strategy that will lead us to victory. Now Operation Fairy Stars. Begin. Right. Team Fairy Tail said as they split up and went into different directions into the city. Fairy Tail has begun to move. Chapati shouted with an excited tone. The audience began cheering in excitement as they were waiting to see Fairy Tail move as they were the wild card in this year's game. On the statue of the GMG Stadium, Naruto watched as Fairy Tail began to make their move. Now the real fun begins, said a smirking Naruto. Several guards were keeping watch near one of the castle's gates when they spotted a middle-aged soldier coming up while holding a tied Natsu and Wendy. Who are the brats? Asked one of the guards. Invaders. I found them trying to sneak into the castle. Probably tried to use the GMG as a distraction to infiltrate the castle. Explained the middle-aged soldier. Those two are probably from Fairy Tail. Said another guard. Yesh, they really take reckless to a whole new level. What do we do? Minister Durden and the king are at the games. I doubt they appreciate being brought back, and I don't think the princess should be informed. Throw them into the dungeons. Said one of the guards. The middle-aged soldier nodded. Mind telling the directions to the prison? I am sorta new here. The guard nodded before pointing to the far left. Of course it's in that direction. The older soldier smiled before walking away. Little did the guards know is that the soldier was actually a disguised Mira who smiled along with Natsu and Wendy. Princess, I believe now is the best time. Said a guard. The person he talked to turned her attention to the soldier. She was a slim, petite young woman with wavy light green hair that reached down to the middle of her back with 2 strands that framed her face as well as a set of tufts that obscured the majority of her forehead, with the prominent tuft in the middle that reached down to the top of her nose. She had large dark green eyes with long eyelashes and wore a short dress that exposed her back and parts at the sides of the skirt. The dress also had a flower-like a pattern along the breast line. She also wore long gloves that covered up to her elbows with frills at the end of them. She wore a fair amount of jewelry, mainly a tiara with 7 gemstones with the largest one placed in the middle and the rest following on outwards, a large silver necklace with a large pendant and a pair of earrings with 2 large gems in both of them. This was Hisui Fiore, the princess of the Fiore kingdom. Yes. Let us begin Project Eclipse 2. She said with a smile. Meanwhile in the palace prison, Lucy and Yukino were sitting in their shared cell with annoyed expressions. The guards had taken their keys and placed anti-magic cuffs on their arms. The two tensed when they heard footsteps approaching. They looked up to see Natsu, Wendy, Mirajan, Happy, Carla, and Lily smiling at them. You guys MMPH. Lucy began before Natsu covered her mouth. Shish. The two girls nodded in understanding. How did you get here? Yukino whispered. Natsu shook his head. Don't worry, we have our ways. Now stand back. Natsu then grabbed the bars of the cells as he heated them using his fire magic before using his brute strength to rip the bars apart. Here you go, you two. We brought you a change of clothes. Mira said in a cheerful tone. Thank you, everyone, Yukino said a grateful tone. Now how do we get out now? Happy asked. It won't be easy to get out the way we came, Lily replied. Lucy shook her head. Wait, we can't leave until we get back our keys, Lucy said in a determined tone with Yukino nodded in agreement. Click. Snap. However, before anyone could say or do anything, the floor snapped open, revealing a trap door. What the hell? Everyone shouted in shock as they began falling down. It's a trap door, Lily said. Like hell. Wendy shouted as she created several clones that caught everyone except Happy and the other exceeds that knew how to fly. However, before they could sigh in relief, they saw several magic seals appear above them as the seals sent energy pulses at the team. Suddenly Wendy lost her ability to fly and her clones disappeared with the exceeds losing their wings. What the hell? They all shouted. Anti-magic seals. Wendy screamed in an annoyed tone. So not fair. Everyone else shouted. The group fell for several before landing hard on the rocky ground. Ow. They all groaned as they were all piled up on top of each other. After recovering a bit, they managed to untangle themselves and get back on their feet. Where are we now? Lucy asked as she looked at her surroundings. The entire place looks like an underground cave with jagged stalactites and stalagmites everywhere, and the whole place glowed a dim green. She slightly shivered. This place gave her the creeps. It looks like we are in the castle dungeons, Wendy replied. Welcome to the Hell Palace. This is the last bit of freedom you criminals will ever see. A voice said. They all looked to see a magic projection appear with a young woman looking at them. It was Princess Hisui. Who's she? Natsu rudely asked. The Princess of Fury, Yukino said as everyone else's eyes widened in surprise. Princess. They all shouted. Before they could say anything, the projection disappeared. Meanwhile, the guards were praising the princess's skills in handling the criminals. Princess Hisui is amazing. She handled those criminals without His Majesty. Viva Hisui! Shouted a soldier. Viva Hisui! The rest shouted in unison. Unknown to them, Hisui was looking down, concerned at the outcome of the coming events. GMG Stadium. Everyone move to your next destination, Mavis ordered. There is a 97% chance that Rufus will make a move on all of you. In the city, Rufus gave a small smile. So you're starting to move. Won't do you much against me. Memory make. Starry night shower. Suddenly several beams of energy fire from his body and headed straight for the fairy tale members. This magic. Chapati began. It looks similar to move Dobengal used on the contestants on the first day. So pretty. Mato commented. Within a few seconds you will take notice of the lights and 4 of you will dodge immediately. Only Laxus can guard against it as the attack uses lightning. Mavis commented as everything happened exactly as she said. What? Rufus said in shock. There's 67% chance that Rufus will retaliate by attacking us. There's a 32% chance that he'll wait at his current location. Regardless, his actions won't hinder us. Mavis commented. Everyone else from the guild just looked in awe. Whoa. Was all they could muster. Master Mavis is going through numbers like a machine, Macau commented with Romeo and Wakaba nodding in agreement. Was she always like this? Kana asked. Well, she is the one who founded Fairy Tale, Listener replied. Makarov had an epiphany as he began to speak. Now I remember Mavis's nickname. She led her team and entire armies to victory with her strategies. The fairy tactician Mavis. So skilled. Yet so adorable, Macau said. She really is a ray of sunshine. It moves me to tears. Wakaba replied. The battle between Bullet and Wave against Sela and Brandish had concluded with the girls taking the victory. However, the battle had left them fatigued, which made Sharia's surprise appearance undesired. The three duked it out with Sharia having the advantage due to her being at full strength while Sela and Brandish were fatigued from their earlier fight, but their experience was giving them the edge to hold Sharia off. They were in a deadlock. That was until Minerva appeared and knocked Sela and Brandish out. Minerva and Sharia faced each other down, ready to fight, but Minerva paused as she heard someone approaching. The two turned to see Urza running towards them. Minerva disappeared as she did not want to face Urza yet. Sharia was about to leave as well, since she knew she couldn't handle Urza, especially with her weakened position. However, Urza did not give her a chance to escape as Urza attacked and knocked Sharia out. Sharia's down. Fairy Tail takes their first point. Finally we're on the board. Several Fairy Tail members cheered. Go guys! You can do this! Elfman cheered. The screen shows Gray entering a library where Rufus was waiting for him. Master Mavis, do you think Gray can win? Kana asked as Mavis frowned in thought. I don't know. Despite my capabilities, I cannot 100% calculate and predict what will happen. However, Rufus is very integral to Sabretooth's strategy. He needs to fall here. After his fall, that's when the real battle will begin for us. So you're here. Just like Master Mavis said. Gray commented. Rufus looked up from the book he was reading. I seem to have no memory of you. Perhaps you could remind me. Rufus mocked. Gray scowled. You won't just remember. I'll forever engrave it into your skull. Same as canon. Gray Full Buster takes the win. Sabretooth loses their first member. Yay Gray Sama won. Juvia cheered with hearts in her eyes. Mavis smiled at the panel showing a victorious Gray. Excellent job Gray. Sometimes even calculations can be outdone by the human element. What a passionate battle. Two teams have been eliminated, but the tension is as thick as when the battle began. In fact, it feels even stronger. Fairy Tail is now the only team with 5 members. Things are going to heat up soon. Elsewhere Rogue was sitting around waiting for an opponent to appear. Fairy Tail is our biggest rival. But I will get you back for my lost, Gajiel. Rogue growled. Little did he know, his shadow slightly shifted before returning to normal. Will Sabretooth prevail or will it be Fairy Tail? In the end, it will fall onto you Sting. Minerva said. Somewhere in the arena, Sting was sitting in an alleyway waiting for his opportunity to fight. He looked up when he heard the results for the last battle. So Rufus went down, huh? Sting said out loud before looking back down. Doesn't matter. We will still win, he said in a confident tone. Sting then began to let his mind drift as he contemplated what happened last night after he killed Giemma. Flashback. Dobengal looked at the corpse of the master with contempt and disappointment. All that power wasted on a weakling like him. Only fitting he received such a pathetic end. The fool got what he deserved for a long time. Now, are you three alright? Dobengal as he looked at the 3 other members of Team Sabretooth. Yeah, Rogue muttered as he got up. Orga scoffed as got out of the wall. Except my damn pride, I'm fine, he said with Rufus nodding in agreement. Dobengal then turned his attention to the entire guild. We need to find Minerva, he said as he was concerned at what the bastard could have done to his own daughter for failing him as he calls it. You don't need to worry, I'm right here. Everyone turned and gasped as they saw a heavily injured Minerva leaning on the wall. She had several cuts all over her arms and legs, black bruises covered her chest and face, blood fell from her forehead and her lips were busted as blood dripped from the corners of her mouth. What the hell happened to you? Orga asked as he's never seen Minerva ever beaten so badly like this. Minerva gave Orga a glare before responding, that asshole decided to re-educate me after my shameful performance against Naruto Marvel. Minerva spat as she shivered remembering her terrifying experience with that man and made a mental never to cross him again. Well good news is he's dead. The bastard murdered Lecter before Sting lost it and killed him. Dobengal explained as he wondered what her reaction would be. Unsurprisingly, Minerva scoffed. That fool always enjoyed bullying those beneath him that bastard had it coming for a long time. I just expected it would be you, she said. She knew Dobengal always had some bad blood with her bastard father. She honestly expected him to have done the deed. Dobengal raised an eyebrow to her. Aren't you the same? He asked as Minerva glared at him, but her exhaustion made the glare rather weak. That's because this bastard drilled it into my head to be cruel to those beneath me, and that nearly killed me today, or have you forgotten what happened? Dobengal nodded as he helped Minerva to the couch in the front of the room. Minerva looked at her father's corpse before sneering as she waves her hand and the master's body disappears. What happened? One random mage asked. I got rid of that trash. The sight of it sickened me to no end, she replied. Now what? We don't have a master, do we continue the games? Another mage asked. This caused Team Sabretooth and several other members to blink. What were they supposed to do? Their master just killed one of their members, cat or not, and their master was murdered. What will they do now? Yes, we continue. Everyone turned to Dobengal. We've come too far to end like this. We are Sabretooth. We don't back down. Dobengal then turned to Sting, who was still on his hands and knees, still sobbing at the loss of Lecter. Dobengal walked over until he was standing in front of the White Dragon Slayer. What will you do now, Sting? He asked. Sting sobbed as he looked at Dobengal with a tear-stained face. You were right. You warned me that my attitude and actions would have consequences, but I ignored your warning. Now Lecter is gone. There is nothing left, Sting said as lowered his head back down. He then felt someone grab him by the collar and lift him up. When he raised his head, he was faced with Dobengal's glare. Pull yourself together. Have you forgotten what Lecter said? He always believed in you, Sting. Believed that you would surpass all other Dragon Slayers. You failed today, but you still have tomorrow to prove you really are the strongest. If he truly meant the world to you, then honor his wish. He believed you would learn from this and become stronger. So what will you do? Dobengal ranted to Sting. Sting remained quiet as he thought back to all his time with Lecter. The first day, he met Lecter as he demanded to be his student to be strong. All the times that Lecter admired his magic. The day he made the promise to Lecter to beat Natsu Dragneel and become the strongest Dragonslayer in all of Fury. He remembered how happy and proud was when he became one of the top mages of Sabretooth and all the victories they won in the previous games. Sting-kun, you will always be the best in my eyes. That's a promise. Lecter, I will become stronger for you. I promise I will keep my promise to you, partner. I will win for your sake. Sting mentally promised as he looked up to Dobengal with a new fire in his eyes. Dobengal smirked. That's what I wanted to see. Looks like we have our new master, Minerva said in an amused tone. Dobengal's eyes widened when he heard several people cheer in agreement. Wait. What? Dobengal shouted in shock. Come on, you're the best option. You're the only one that will probably keep us in check. Minerva explained. The other members of the team shared thoughts. I concur, Rufus said with a smirk. I agree, Rogue said. Frosh thinks so too. Dobengal looked to Sting that gave him a small smile. You have my vote, Sting replied. He's better than nothing, I guess, Orga muttered. Dobengal looked at all the members looking at him, expectantly. He sighed. Fine. I will take the reign. He finally relented with nearly everyone cheering. Sting, help me heal Minerva. We'll need her for tomorrow. After that, everyone gets some sleep and be ready. Right. Everyone shouted. Flashback end. Sting sighed from his sitting position as he looked up into the sky. I will win, Lecter. No matter the cost. I will make you proud of me by winning this competition. You have my word. Sting promised. Meanwhile, with the Lucy Yukino rescue team. Natsu, the ceiling is completely closed up. Happy said as he flew back down to the rescue team. We couldn't find any exit, Carla said. Damn it. Natsu shouted in frustration with everyone having similar feelings. We came all the way here to rescue them and we get caught, Mira said as she sighed sadly. What a nuisance, Wendy said in exasperation. If I had known, I would have drawn a map on my body, Lily muttered in annoyance. By the way, Natsu, what about the tournament? Lucy asked in a confused tone. Yes, won't you miss the finale being here? Yukino asked in an equally confused, but curious tone. Gray took my place. Besides, I had to come to save you too. Natsu said as if it was the simplest thing in the world. He was absolutely resolute on coming down and rescuing both of you. We had to tie him down just so that he would listen to reason. He can be so stubborn sometimes. Happy said in a teasing tone. Natsu just gave his partner a deadpan look. Anyway. Natsu began. Ah, you're gonna make me blush. Lucy said in a cheerful tone as she held her cheeks in her hands with a small blush. Yukino gained a more noticeable blush. Thank you, Natsu-kun. Mirajan stiffened as she felt her spine tingle. My shipping senses are tingling. She thought as she got a teasing smile curled onto her lips. Wendy saw this and had to sweat drop. She has that look again. Though they're not helping at all, the little dragonslayer thought as she looked at the three. Natsu. Everyone turned to the rushing Happy and Carla. I found a hidden passage over here. He cheerfully announced. The group were lead to a narrow passageway. None of them really liked the idea of going through the closed-spaced area, but they had to swallow their anxiety to get out of this dungeon. It's so narrow, Natsu said in an annoyed tone. I feel so clustered, Lucy said as she felt her chest being pushed into her due to the cramped space. Yukino and Mira also grunted in agreement. Wendy was rather thankful for not having a big chest in this scenario. Ah! Wendy cheered as she finally got out of the narrow pathway to another opened area. The others managed to get out of the passageway and stretch their bodies from their claustrophobic experience. Man, that was annoying, Natsu said as he rubbed his neck. A little help here? Lucy asked. Natsu turned to Lucy still stuck in the passageway. I'm kinda stuck, Lucy said weakly. Binge too much on the late-night snacks? Natsu asked in a dull tone. Lucy felt a vein pop on her forehead. If you're gonna be a jerk, at least be a useful one and help me get out of here, she said in an annoyed tone. Alright. Natsu began to pull before he finally pulled Lucy out. Ha! Lucy shouted. WHOOMP. Oh my. A blushing Yukino said as she covered her mouth. Lucy landed right on top of Natsu's face. It's not what it looks like. I swear. Lucy quickly said with a noticeable blush. You would probably be more convincing if you got off from sitting on his face. Wendy deadpan with pink blush dusting her cheeks. Lucy shivered before realizing she was still sitting on Natsu's face. EPP. She shouted as she quickly stood up as her face resembled a bright, red tomato. Natsu got up with an equally red face. My Lucy, how bold of you. It seems you two are advancing quite fast. Mira said with a teasing smile. I say it's about time, Wendy said with an equally teasing smile. Mira. Wendy. The blushing team shouted. Mira giggled before she leaned her cheek to her left hand. I'm just worried how Lysina would react to this, she said in a fake sad tone. Probably join in to form a harem. And by the look on Yukino's face, she wants to be a part of it. Or maybe she's thinking about another Dragonslayer, retorted. What? Natsu and Lucy shouted with their faces getting close to atomic red with Yukino not too far behind. Wait, that's not. I mean. Yukino tried to stammer out before Wendy and Mira burst out laughing. The three blushing mages glared at their two companions along with the exceeds that were quietly snickering. Finally, Mira calmed down before she spoke again. Alright, Wendy, let's stop teasing them. For now anyway. Wendy nodded with the three sighing in relief to get out of that topic. Guys, look. Happy exclaimed. Everyone turned to see a battered Arcadios a few feet away. Arcadios. Yukino shouted. They quickly rushed to his side and checked his injuries. Geez, what happened to him? Natsu asked. Who could have done this? Wendy wondered out loud. Arcadios moaned as he slowly regained consciousness. Arcadios tried to sit up but winced in pain. Wendy put a hand on his chest to stop him from overstressing his body. Relax, Wendy warned. Arcadios looked at the group of mages in front of him. You all need to run, he warned. Before they could say anything, a huge shadow soon envelops them. They all quickly jumped as a giant fist slammed into the area they were previously huddled in. What the hell? Natsu shouted. Wendy looked at the dissolving ground. This is. She began before Lily spoke up. Acid. Be careful. He's no ordinary mage, Lily warned. Tai. Someone else began to speak. Wait, wah, Happy began to say as he began to levitate off the ground. Big catch. Tai. The second mystery mage shouted. Wah. Lily and Carla shouted as they began to fly out off the ground. Another gravity user. Wendy said in annoyance. How many more were they going to meet? Who are these guys? Natsu asked out loud as several vines and flowers rose from the ground and they soon accumulated together to form a giant rose, and out of the rose came a young woman with pink hair. Another one. Pieces of paper began flying around and came together to form a woman with raven-colored hair. More. A few shouted in exasperation. Arcadios looked up from his position. This is very bad. They are an independent unit that supports the kingdom from the shadows. They do the jobs too dirty for a normal soldier or knight would do. The strongest executioners of the kingdom. The Order of the Hungry Wolves are the Garo Knights. Their appearances is the same as canon. Natsu snorted before he laughed uncontrollably, biwahahaha. Everyone looked like he grew a second head. Natsu, what are you laughing about? Lucy asked. Natsu pointed at the so-called knights. Come on. Look at them. They don't even look like knights. Don't let their appearances deceive you. Arcadios warned. They are the kingdom's elite guard and are skilled in using their magic for one thing and one thing only, the execution of the kingdom's enemy. Natsu slammed his fists together. HMPH, that just means if we beat them we can get out of here. Wendy began to control the wind around her. Plus it's not like we can get out of here without a fight, Wendy said as she got into a fighting stance. Happy, Carla. Stay out of this. Lily warned as he got into his combat form. Happy said. Mira got in front of the powerless stellar mages. Lucy. Yukino. Stay back since you can't fight right now. She warned as the two nodded. You do not fear us. The head knight, asked. Natsu scoffed. We don't have the luxury to fear you. We got people waiting for us. Wendy and Mira also nodded in agreement. The knights looked rather amused. What foolish sinners you truly are, commented. It's time to send you back into the earth from whence you came. Kamika, the raven-haired woman, said. She began calling forth several red-colored pieces of paper. She turned to her pink-haired companion. Cosmos. Shall we? Yes, let's show them a beautiful dance of death, Cosmos said. Paper dance. Red storm. Kamika shouted as a large mass of paper flew straight to the rescue team. Natsu just looked amused. Paper. I'll just burn it all away. Natsu mocked as he blasted the paper with a wave of his fire magic. However, the flames did nothing to the paper storm. Instead, it looked like the fires were absorbed by the large mass of paper. What? Everyone shouted in shock. It's not burning, Natsu exclaimed. Kamika smiled in amusement. Red paper symbolizes the god of flames, she explained. Scatter. Kamika shouted as the mass of paper split as it tried to surround the entire group. Wendy glared defiantly. No, you don't. Tenryu no Hoko. The sky roar ripped through all the pieces of paper in seconds. Awesome, Wendy. Her teammates cheered. Cosmos looked amused as she began to speak. Beautiful. A doll that dances beautifully. Child of darkness, committer of sin, be consumed by the blossom rose of blood. Suddenly a giant rose appeared below Wendy as it tried to swallow her. Wendy. They shouted as she was about to become plant food. Like hell. I refuse to get eaten like dad. Tenryu no Kaden. The heavenly spin ripped the rose into tiny chunks as Wendy glared at Cosmos. Cosmos continued to smile as she flicked her hand as several vines rose from the ground and tried to ensnare Lucy and Yukino, but Lily cut them up with his buster sword. Paper storm. Purple dance. Kamika shouted. The swarm of purple paper quickly enveloped the team and covered every part of their body. What the? Natsu shouted as he couldn't move a limb. I can't move. A binding spell. Wendy said as the others couldn't move a muscle. Kamika gushed. Purple paper is the god of binding. Cosmos then began summoning her magic as she spoke again. Such a beautiful combination. Grow flow. Suddenly everyone began to levitate up to a giant monstrous plant with a wide gaping mouth. Holy shit. It's huge. Natsu shouted in shock. Cosmos smiled. Eat beautifully and devour these sinners. She cheered. Shit, it's sucking us up. Lily grunted as he tried to move to no avail. Kya. Yukino shouted as she being sucked up by the plant. Yukino. Lucy and Mira shouted in concern. Like hell, this is how it ends. Otai iho keifuku maho. Rees, anomaly recovery magic, raise. Wendy shouted as everyone was covered in a green magical aura. The aura lasted for a few seconds before disappearing along with the papers attached to their bodies. Natsu flexed his arms a bit. I can move. He cheered with Wendy nodding. Natsu. Mira. Let's attack it together. The two mages nodded as the three turned to the giant vegetation they were approaching. Karyu no Hoko. Tenryu no Hoko. Soul extinction. A giant explosion enveloped the entire area and everyone in the vicinity. Hisui's viewing balcony. The hungry wolves have been deployed. Those criminals are as good as dead. Hisui was looking very nervous before feeling two hands on her shoulders. She turns to see her two personal guards looking on sympathetically to her. The first had long raven-colored hair with blood-red eyes. The other had neck-length hair with black eyes. These were Akame and Kurome. The two royal guards faux Princess Hisui. Appearances are the same as they appear in Akame ga Kill. Hisui smiled in return before looking down as she frowned and thought. My strategic plans keep backfiring spectacularly. Please be safe everyone, she thought to herself. Back in the dungeons. Ga. Natsu shouted as he got out a pile of rock, dirt, and dust. Hey! Is anyone there? Is everyone alright? Natsu shouted before he heard something behind him to see Kama looking at him and the area they were in. It would seem that due to the shockwave from the explosion separated all of us into different locations, Kama said before turning to Natsu. However, it's irrelevant. My colleagues are all very skilled mages. You and your friends will not make it out here alive. Natsu glared at Kama as his fists erupted into flames. Like hell, we're not dying here. We'll make it out of here together. All of us. Where is everyone? Wendy muttered as walked around her surroundings. I get the little cutie. A voice said. Wendy turned to see Cosmos smiling at her while she was sitting on one of her plants. Well, not cute, but beautiful. But I am going to execute you. But tell me, do you like sour treats? Wendy stiffens as she felt a chill go down her spine. Cosmos began giggling in amusement. I am going to hate this fight, Wendy muttered as she glared at Cosmos. Hey. Nippa laughed as stared down Lily. Shit. I lost sight of everyone. Lily cursed as he got ready to fight. Lucy. Yukino. Where are you? Mira called out as someone appeared behind her. Looks like I have the she-devil as my victim. Mira turned to see Kamika standing behind her. You, Mira said with a frown. My name is Kamika and it'll be the last name you'll hear before you die. We shall see about that. Satan Soul. Citri Soul. Mira cried as she transformed into her most powerful Satan Soul. Strong enough to blow several cities with ease. Kamika scoffed. Of course a criminal will use magic like take over. Mira got into a battle stance. Bring it Kamika. OWWW. Yukino, Lucy, Happy, and Carla moaned. Somehow the four had landed on top of one another when they landed from the explosion shockwaves. Lucy, can you please get off me? Yukino moaned from the bottom. Sorry, Yukino. My head is spinning. Carla moaned. Wah. Happy said with his eyes spinning. As Lucy got up as she looked at her surroundings. Did we lose everyone else? Lucy asked. Yukino was just getting up with Carla and Happy regaining some of their balance. Arcadios was still too weak to stand. It would appear so, Yukino replied. And everyone without the ability to fight ended up together, Carla said in a depressed tone as the others held their head down. We should go look for everyone else. Happy suggested with everyone else nodding and agreeing. However, Happy suddenly felt himself floating off the ground. Wait, what's going on? He shouted. Happy. Everyone else exclaimed in concern. I just caught myself a big catch. Everyone turned to see one of the Garo knights. I am not a fish, you big idiot. Happy shouted in annoyance. The knight tilted his head in thought. You're right. He mused before dropping Happy back to the ground. Who are you? Lucy asked. Executor Uosuke. The knight replied. Carla did not look impressed. You don't look so tough. She rudely said. Lucy nodded. I bet we can take him. She confidently said with everyone else agreeing. The now conscious Arcadios wondered if they had lost their minds. You fools, don't underestimate him. It's said that anyone that is executed by him, nothing is left afterward. Not even their bones. He warned them. Everyone looked at him as if he grew two heads. A nervous Lucy and Yukino questioned. Makarov said as a cold sensation overtook his body. Everyone around him looked him in confusion. Master, what's wrong? Levy asked. Makarov shook his head. Nothing. I just had a terrible feeling go down my spine. It's probably just the jitters, Master, Fried said. Makarov still did not look convinced. I hope so. Master, do you think Mirane, Natsu, and the others will be alright? Lisina asked in concern. She hoped nothing bad happened to anyone. All we can do is to put our faith in them, Makarov said as he returned his attention to the projections. Looks I have no choice, but to kick your ass and find the others, Natsu said as he got ready to fight the commander. Kama removed his weapons from their sheath on his back. A pair of scythes. Kama quickly rushed forward and reappeared right in front of Natsu. Natsu's eyes widened before he quickly jumped away as Kama in the area where Natsu's neck was before he moved. Kama then did a horizontal slash that Natsu quickly ducked from before he jumped to the wall to dodge an upward slash. The two slashes ripped apart the walls and a good portion of the ceiling wall. Damn, that was close. I need to be careful with those weapons. Natsu thought as he began to charge his magical energy for his signature attack. Karyu no Hoko. He roared as the attack went straight for the head knight. Kama merely raised his left scythe as it glowed a dark purple. He slashed down as the fire roar disappeared. What? Natsu exclaimed in shock as Kama smirked. Anti-magic weapons. You won't be able to hit me with your magic, he explained. Natsu was soon covered in an aura of fire. We'll see about that. Schwa. Lily jumped as acid sprayed on the area he was. He looked at the corner of his eyes as the floor melted from the acidic liquid. Damn, this acid is a complete nuisance. If my weapon or I touch it, we're goners. I need to charge my magical energy into my body and weapon and hope it'll augment my defenses to handle this. Lily thought. Meltdown. Meltdown. Neppa chanted as Lily got ready to fight. Paper storm. Green dance. Kamika shouted as a mass of green gas enveloped Myra's form. Poison. Mira exclaimed. Green paper is the god of poison. Be swallowed by the poison and die as you crumble into nothing but bones and ash like the victims that lay before us. Kamika said in a confident tone. Spore bomb, Rinka, Renka. Cosmos shouted as several explosive orbs were launched towards Wendy. Crap, crap, crap. Wendy repeatedly said as she dodged all of the bombs. Cosmos pouted. No fair, I want to hear you scream. Cosmos in a cute, but whiny tone. Cosmos waved her hand as several sour berries grew from her plants until they grew a pair of arms and legs with gaping mouths. Go my sour plum monsters, she commanded as the sour plum monsters charged after Wendy. The Sky Maiden felt her eyes widen in horror as she got horrible flashbacks of her time with her dad when he did something similar. Kya! Wendy cutely screamed. Meanwhile back at the GMG stadium, Naruto sneezed as he felt he was missing a cute moment involving Wendy. At the same time, Anna and Irene felt like they had to smack Naruto for something he did to Wendy. Ah, what a pretty scream. Cosmos gushed. Wendy turned to give Cosmos a heated glare. Who the fuck do you think you are, my father? Wendy screamed before she turned to glare at the monsters as she took in a large quantity of air. The only one that screwed with me on this level was him. Tenryu no Hoko. Wendy roared. The sky roar easily ripped through the sour plum monsters without much difficulty. Cosmos looked at the scene with an amused smile. You really are an interesting criminal, but it's time to end this. Makora Kimura. Suddenly plants sprout around Wendy as they opened up as they released some kind of toxin or gas. What the? Wendy shouted as she began to cough as she was slowly becoming drowsy. Cosmos looked on with a smirk. A sleeping gas. Once you fall asleep to the spores, you'll never wake up again. It's deadly sleep magic. However, Cosmos was surprised when Wendy was covered in a light green aura. Cosmos felt her eyes widen. What? She shouted in shock. Reese, Wendy muttered as she opened her eyes as she glared at Cosmos. If you think I'll fall to this, you're sadly mistaken. Wendy shouted as her aura exploded as a whirlwind that quickly and easily blew away the gas and ripped apart the plants and spores all around her. Dragon Force. Wendy was soon in her transformed state. I don't have time to play with you. Wendy said as she dashed in front of Cosmos and delivered a swift haymaker. Terrain effect. Lava ravage. Yuosuke exclaimed as the area began to rumble. Something is about to come, Lucy muttered as Yukino nodded. Yeah. What causing all this rumbling? Happy said as he fell to knees with Carla having similar difficulty maintaining her balance. What this smell? Something's burning and the temperature is increasing rapidly. Arcadios muttered. Suddenly the entire area around them collapsed and revealed a pool of molten hot lava. What the hell? Lucy shrieked as she jumped off her falling platform and grabbed onto the ledge that kept her from falling into the flaming abyss. Yukino was in a similar position, but she seemed to be losing her grip. Lucy. Yukino. Arcadios shouted in concern. Happy summoned his wings as he flew into the air. Carla, let's go. he shouted as Carla summoned her own wings. Hi. The two then made a quick beeline for Lucy and Yukino, but Yuosuke was not having it. Not gonna happen. Terrain effect. Gravity range, he said as Wendy and Carla were sent to the ground as their wings disappeared. So heavy. Happy moaned. He felt like he weighed over 100 pounds. I can't move, Carla said as she tried to get up only to fall back flat to the ground. Happy looked to the two stellar mages. Yukino. Lucy, he said in concern. Ah. Yukino cried in pain as she could feel the lower part of her clothes begin to melt. Hold on, Yukino. Lucy tried to reassure, but she winced in pain. Damn it. She cursed as she felt her own clothes melting as well. I'm trying, Lucy, Yukino said weakly. If something was not done, those two will not be able to make it. Arcadios got up to his feet as he slowly walked to the edge of his platform. Be strong. You two are my hope. Arcadios. The two girls said as they looked at the royal knight. Eclipse can't open without you two. Arcadios then began walking on the lava. That's why I am willing to risk my life to save you two. Arcadios passionately exclaimed. Arcadios. Everyone from Fairy Tail shouted in horror. Are you mad? Get out of there now. Lucy shrieked. She did not want to see the man melt trying to save her. Yukino was also looking in similar horror. Arcadios shook his head. I will not. Until I save you two, I won't stop, he replied. Yuosuke tilted his head in shock. He's walking through the manga. Is he crazy? He said to himself. Arcadios quickly reached the two stellar mages and used the last of his strength to push them up the platform. Climb up. Quickly. He shouted. The girls got on top of the platform and quickly looked over the edge and reached out their hands. Arcadios. Yukino shouted. Take our hands. Lucy screamed. It's too late for me. Go now. You must go talk to Princess Hisui. I leave the choice of opening the eclipse gate to you three. I know you three will make the right choga. Arcadios was cut from his last words as a black beam pierced his chest. A necklace could be seen being ripped by the beam as it fell into the lava. What? Everyone including Yuosuke shouted in shock and horror. Arcadios. Lucy and Yukino shouted. Arcadios's eyes rolled to the back of his head as he fully fell into the lava. Not one trace of his body was left. Arcadios. Who did that? No one else is here. Yuosuke then felt a rise in magical energy. He turned to see Lucy and Yukino enveloped in golden. You will pay for this, Yukino said in a dark tone. I am so fucking tired of losing people trying to save me, Lucy muttered in an angry, frustrated tone. The two turned to glare angrily at Yuosuke. The knight simply tilted his head. You can glare all you want, but you can't win. Then maybe I can assist. A voice said. The three turned to see Loki in his Leo appearance. Loki. The fairy tale mages shouted in surprise. Loki looked at Lucy with an apologetic gaze. Sorry for taking so long. I had some errands to accomplish. Loki then revealed in his hands were Lucis and Yukino's celestial keys. I brought your keys. The girls' eyes widened in joy as they got back their keys. Pisces. Libra. I am so glad to have you back. Yukino said happily as she looked at Leo. Thank you, Leo. She said in a graceful tone. Loki smiled as he nodded before he turned to glare at Yuosuke. Now you have angered and hurt my princesses. I can't forgive you for such a sin. Lucy and Yukino stood up as they stood at Loki's side with Happy and Carla flying just above them. For the first time in decades, the 12 zodiac keys are together. Let us begin our counterattack. Loki said as the three began to release their magical energy even more fiercely. Ta-I. A nervous Yuosuke muttered. The fight continues as in canon. What? Kamika shouted in shock as Mirajan sucked up all the poison gas she released like it was nothing. Mira gave a content sigh before giving Kamika a coy smile. You tried to use poison on me. Tough luck, honey. Poison is like candy for demons like me, she said in an amused tone. Kamika took a step back in shock. You're not human. Mira merely shrugged her shoulders. Of course I'm not. I am a demon. I am the she-devil of Fairy Tail. Mira declared before she blitzed towards the paper mage. Hey, what's wrong? Aren't you scared of the acid? Nepa exclaimed in shock. Lily simply gave him a determined glare. This body has been trained by Urza and Gajiel. My body, spirit, and blade are made of iron. Lily raised his blade. And puny acid like yours won't be to burn through. Lily brought his sword down in powerful downward slash that cut the acid right through the middle. Neppa's eyes widen in shock. What? You cut through the acid? What? Kama shouted in shock as Natsu caught his blades with his fiery bare hands. Lightning flame mode. Natsu shouted as Kama was blasted back by the shockwave of Natsu's magical aura. Natsu glared at the head knight. I don't have time to play with you. Natsu shouted as he dashed in front of Kama and delivered a harsh punch into his gut. Gah! Kama coughed out. Natsu then collected fire and lightning magical energy into his mouth. Reienryu no Hoko. Natsu roared as Kama was blasted by the dual-element attack. Gah! Just as Natsu blasted Kama away through the wall behind them, the other 4 walls exploded as the other members of the Garo Knights fly out of them. Natsu looked through the now destroyed walls and saw the rest of the fairy tale members coming out of them. Natsu blinked before giving them a wide smile. Hey, guys. You managed to beat them. Everyone nodded. Yeah. Mira turned to give them a smile. I am so glad that everyone is okay, she said in a cheerful tone. Been a while, Loki. Natsu greeted. Loki nodded. Nice to see everyone again, Loki replied. Wendy then noticed that someone was missing from their group. Wait, where's Arcadios? She asked. Lucy, Yukino, Loki, Happy, and Carla all stiffened before looking down in sorrow. This concerned the other members as this could only mean bad news. He's dead. Lucy finally got out. What? Everyone who was not there shouted in shock. He tried saving us, but someone attacked him from behind. But we don't know who did it. Yukino explained. Everyone else narrowed their eyes. So we have someone else here? Mira asked in a serious tone. Yukino shook her head. I don't know. Everyone gave a moment of silence out of respect for the fallen knight before looking back up. We need to get out here as soon as possible, Wendy said as everyone, except Lucy and Yukino, nodded in agreement. We need to talk to the princess, Lucy said in a firm tone. What? Nearly everyone shouted as they looked to Lucy as if she's grown a second head. Lucy, I doubt she would want to see us. Especially after what we did to her knights. Mira said as tried to reason with the blonde stellar mage. But Lucy shook her head. I know, but this was Arcadios's last will and I intend to honor it. She vehemently said. Yukino then walked forward until she was side by side with Lucy. I will as well. So respectfully, you can help us or get out of our way. Natsu, Mira, and Wendy looked shocked as they never expected that from the polite Yukino, but they could tell that the two not budge on their decision. All 3 sighed in defeat. Great, she picked up the stubbornness of fairy tale, Wendy muttered in mild exasperation. No kidding. Mira giggled. She then looked at the pink-haired fire mage. Natsu. Natsu sighed in annoyance before looking at the 2 stellar mages. Fine. But we're coming with you. Lucy and Yukino smiled in appreciation. Then you. The 2 said as they all continued their way out of the dungeon. Hisui's viewing chamber. Princess, I bring terrible news. The Garo Knights have been defeated. A random knight shouted. What? The other knights shouted. All 5 were beaten. Another random knight shouted. One other knight's eyes widened as he came to a realization. That means Hisui's 2 personal guards, Lady Najanda and the knights of the castle are her last defense against the intruders. Hisui sighed in relief. Thank goodness. She thought in relief. But I have heard that Arcadios was killed. Hisui's eyes widened in horror. What? Hisui shouted as she whirled to glare at the messenger knight that made that statement. Who killed him? Hisui demanded. The knight shook in fear from the princess's glare before speaking again. We don't know, PP princess. From I could gather it was done by an unknown party that was also in the dungeons. Hisui looked down in grief at the loss of her knight. Her 2 guards gave her a comforting squeeze to her shoulders. Arcadios, she muttered sadly. You should not grieve for criminals, princess. A new voice said. Hisui's eyes widened as she recognized the voice. She looked up to see Prime Minister Durden approaching. Durden, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be with His Majesty in the Domus Frau with Father. She asked in complete shock and confusion. I came back as I had a bad feeling. Looks like I was right. Hisui could tell what Durden was talking about, so she ordered all the knights to leave, except for her 2 personal guards. Hisui then glared at the minister. Why did you send Arcadios to the Hell Palace without a proper trial? Now he's dead because of your actions, she demanded in a firm, but professional tone. Durden merely raised an eyebrow. My actions. While his death is a tragedy, it is your fault that he ended up in his position. Durden retorted. What? Hisui exclaimed in shock at his declaration. Akame and Kurome both placed their hands on their blades, but one look from Hisui told them to stand down and relax. The two reluctantly let go, but still glared at the minister. Hisui before looking at Durden to explain himself. You used fairy tale to save him and their companions, correct? Hisui remained quiet. I see now, everything has become clear. You were the one behind the Eclipse project. Arcadios took the position of the mastermind in order to protect you. Hisui continued to stare at the minister before she sighed in defeat. So you figured out this much, have you? Durden nodded. Princess, I would advise you to forget this plan to use the gate. We do not know the repercussions of using it to change history. Hisui shook her head. You're wrong, the world needs to be changed, she said in a firm tone. Durden looked confused. Needs to be changed? He asked. Hisui then walked to the balcony of the chamber. I promised that person I would say nothing, but perhaps I should tell you of the Eclipse Project too. Eclipse Project 2. Durden shouted in shock. The true Eclipse Project. If it fails, then this country will not exist when the sun rises again. She further explained as continued to stare at the city from her balcony. Damn, this place goes on and on. I am so sick of this. Natsu shouted in exasperation. I wish the exist would just appear. Everyone else did their best to placate the irritated fire mage before he took his temper out on the wrong object and caused an accidental cave-in. After a few more minutes of walking, the group saw something at the end of their path. Hey look, I think I see a pair of doors ahead, Natsu shouted as he was about to run before Wendy and Mira grabbed him. Natsu looked back at the two. What? He asked. Wendy and Mira looked suspicious. This is too easy. Natsu just shrugged his shoulders. Who cares? Let's get out of this damp dungeon. Natsu shouted as he ran to the doors, despite everyone's warnings. As he was about to bust the doors open, they opened on their own and Natsu fell forward. He looked up to see a cloaked person standing in front of him. Natsu! Everyone shouted as they rushed towards him. When they reached him, they immediately became aware of the cloaked person. Everyone immediately got on guard. Wait, who's this person? Wendy asked. The cloaked person began to tremble uncontrollably as if she was shivering. Natsu. Everyone. The person spoke in a soft, but trembling tone. Fairy Tail still has the lead as they still have all 5 of their members. We're gonna win. Several members shouted enthusiastically. Makarov looked at the panels with a critical eye before turning his attention to Mavis. Master Mavis, what's gonna happen now? Mavis shook her head. I am not sure. But I have calculated that Urza will face either Kagura or Minerva. But I am not sure of which one. Meanwhile, Urza was walking through the town arena when she arrived at an open square area. Who will I face now? Kagura, Minerva, Demaria, or all of them at once? Suddenly she felt someone behind her as she summoned her blades to block a sneak attack. The attacker was none other than Kagura. Kagura engages Urza. The two swordswomen began a vicious clash of blades. Sparks and dust flew in every direction each time their blades clashed and the ground beneath them was being cut up by their battle. She's strong. I can see why they made her the leader of the team. Urza thought as she continued to counter Kagura's slashes. Show me your strength, Urza. Show me that my mistress' faith in you was not misplaced. Show me why you were named Titania. Kagura mentally commanded as she parried Urza's counter-strikes. Everyone from the stadium was cheering both girls on as Fairy Tail and Mermaid Heel were the most vocal as they hoped for their respective member to win. Master Mavis, will Urza be able to win? Levi asked, but Mavis shook her head. I can't tell you how this will end, we must put our faith in Urza. This fight is getting heated up. WHO will win this battle of swordswomen. The two swordswomen clashed blades once more with neither giving the other an opening. Suddenly a blue bubble appeared between the girls. Suddenly Minerva appeared from the bubble and slammed Urza and Kagura away. Fought. Nearly everyone from the stadium and even the judges shouted in shock at this new development. May I join in? Minerva asked with her annoying smirk. Before Urza or Kagura could reply, they felt a huge amount of magical energy right next to them. All their eyes widen as the three jumped away as the arena they were was hit with a giant golden blast. When the blast disappeared, a very large gash ripped through the area that the three were previously in. They all turned to see Demaria with Durandal in hand and with a glint in her eyes. Sorry Minerva, but it's rude to interrupt a fight. So why don't I take you on? Let's let the ladies handle their quarrel without interruptions. Demaria in a cheerful tone. Minerva glared at being interrupted while Kagura looked like she wanted to strangle Demaria for nearly hitting her as well. Seriously, she gets to heat up when she's on the battlefield. Minerva burst into the battle, but now Demaria has now entered the fray. WHO will be the last one standing. Master Mavis. A nervous Makarov asked. I can't make a prediction in this. All we can hope for is that Urza will win. Hisui's viewing chamber. Durden and Hisui were having a heated discussion after Hisui explained the calamity that would soon befall the kingdom. If what you're saying is true, then we should stop the GMG. We still have time to get everyone into safety. Durden pleaded as he did not want the people to suffer, but Hisui shook her head. We cannot. I am still dubious about that person's word. If we do anything, we may just send everyone into a panic. Even still, if anything of what that person said is remotely true, the people of this country are in danger. That person told me they knew the future. That they knew the outcome of the GMG, and they told me. What? They said that a certain guild will win an unbelievable outcome. Hisui looked down from her balcony. I am not sure I could believe their words, but if the outcome of the GMG is what they determined, then I will have no choice but believe them. Are you saying the safety of this country depends on the outcome of the GMG? Durden exclaimed. Hisui then turned her head towards him. Yes. That's why the outcome is so important. So if the outcome is how the person predicted, Durden began. Hisui nodded. Then the future they predicted is also going to happen. She finished. If that happens, then I will open the gate then and not a moment sooner. I will wait to see if that person's words were true. The person who claims to come from the future. Meanwhile in the Hell Palace. Who are you? Natsu asked in a very confused tone as he eyed the cloaked individual. I am so sorry, but please help me. The person said in a sad, broken tone. Everyone felt their eyes widen as they recognized the voice instantly. Wait, that voice, Mira began with a shocked tone. She smells like. Wendy continued in equal shock. It couldn't be, Natsu finished as he could never forget her voice. The person removed their hood and revealed Lucy Hartfilia. A slightly older Lucy Hartfilia. EHHHHHHHHHHHHH. Everyone shouted in complete shock. Lucy, me. Natsu and Lucy shouted at the same time. Only 8 hours remain until the promised time.